feature presentation.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Untitled Movie Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck, alongside, he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchin.
Matt, it's 2024 and we already fucked up royally.
Yes, as you guys are listening to this is our second episode of 2024, which is going to be our 24 most anticipated films of 2024. And what Eric's referencing is we actually recorded this episode in the past. We recorded it at the end of 2023. Eric and I, during our break, sat down, did a beefy episode like we always do, kind of showcasing not only our 24 most anticipated films of 2024, but we kind of went through like the whole slate of everything that's coming out this year, and then kind of did sort of not a draft, but we kind of narrowed down to what we wanted to include in our 24 most anticipated films of 2024. However, this isn't that episode we recorded. We are doing a special little prologue and epilogue you'll hear at the end of this episode because, as Eric mentioned, it's a huge part of the episode. We debated on if we were going to include Jordan Peele's next film, because at the time of that recording, an untitled Jordan Peele film was scheduled for Christmas Day 2024. And about seemed like 30 seconds after we recorded that episode, they announced that that was being moved, and that movie is not coming out in 2024. So instead of just putting out that list as is, because we were planning on releasing that after, our best films of 2024, which is available for you, or 2023, which is available for everyone right now, that you guys can go listen to on the Untitled Movie Podcast feed. We thought we'd kind of do a little new intro, as well as going to do a little extra epilogue to kind of change that list a little bit and add a new film and take off Jordan Peele's film, because it happened so recent. Usually we leave the films on if the dates kind of change in the middle of the year, but this one we thought, because the episode didn't even come out yet, that we could change it. Eric, anything you wanted to say before we let people listen to the original episode?
Yeah, I just want to let people know, as the record stands, you'll hear it in this episode, that I was also considering that the Jordan Peele film would not be made because Nosferatu was also announced for Christmas Day, and it is Focus Features, which is a sub-studio of Universal. So I was always on the right side of history.
All right, fuck you. Okay, everyone listen to the original episode. Everything will be in there, so it might feel a little off, or we might be talking about things that, we recorded it a couple weeks ago. So here's the original episode. We will be back at the end of the episode to kind of give you a updated list. So please enjoy this episode of the Untitled Movie Podcast. There, Eric, how are you?
Man, I'm good. I'm actually very happy to get away from the year 2023 because it was a fucking shit show, and I hate everything about 2023 for the most part. So moving away from a year that was a dumpster fire, personally, is just delightful. Just, getting into a new year of struggles and failures and Kiefer Sutherland jokes is going to be great.
You already kind of alluded to it in the opening of the show, but I'm with you as well. 2023, not my best year, but ups and downs, some pros, some cons. Everyone knows I've talked about it pretty openly of what I went through early 2023, when I had a little bit of a mental breakdown for a few months, but came through that, and started going back to school, doing a bunch of other things. So ups and downs, but it was a weird year, especially for this show. I feel like we've always been, we do these when we want, in the sense of like, we like putting things out regularly, but I feel like in the last year and a half, we've been a little inconsistent when it comes to releases, and especially on the main show. They've been so sporadic, usually like a festival preview or whenever we had a random idea to do something or had time, we would shoot the shit and do this main show. We've been more consistent with reviews, but even then we've missed some big ones this year, and it's kind of been all over the place due to me taking some time off. You took some time off too. Me going back to school, the schedule has been kind of all over the place, but I'm hoping now that we go into this new year, everything's settled down. We kind of know what my schedule's like, what your schedule's like, and we would love to be more consistent on this show. We would love to be more regular to Eric's
We love
uh,
eating that bran.
jokes. Where our goal this year is to put out this show bi-weekly, so 2 episodes a month. The format will be a slightly different, where we're going to have a big topic of the show every episode, so it's a little bit more structured, and kind of keeping it real when it comes to how much we can actually output on this show.
Real and raw.
And then for reviews, we're trying to aim for still that at least one a week. It might not be every week. It might be 2 one week and then one, but 4 a month is what we're aiming for. Trying to cover at least 4 movies a month. And we've already kind of listed out what we want to cover for the year, which you'll hear a lot about those movies on the show today, because we're going to live with you. We haven't talked about this at all. Try to plan out our 24 most anticipated films and debate those back and forth and come down to a list of 24 films. So the idea is to do 4 reviews a month. A mix of, this is going to be new, Eric and I doing reviews together, but we're also going to try to do kind of individual reviews this year as well. So if you guys are familiar with Eric's type of review over on Rogers,
Which you're not, because you don't watch it.
Yeah, they do. A lot of people do. If you're in Canada, that at least you can, and you can try. But in that sense, is like, we want to do more written reviews as well. We love the conversational style of Eric and I going back and forth, but I miss a little bit of a more produced kind of thing, especially with what I'm doing in school as well, with video editing and sound design, and I love writing obviously too. And I feel like sometimes in our conversations, they're very uh I think intelligent, and Eric and I know what we're talking about, but I
But they're
feel like,
free flowing. They're
yeah,
loose. They're a little bit more abstract and sort of having an actual conversation back and forth. Where when you're writing a review and you're kind of setting a goal of, for the Rogers reviews, they're usually between 2 to 4 minutes. They used to be 2 to 3 minutes, but some reviews, I think, earn a longer runtime based on, if you have something to say about it, or the complexities of the story, or just something that you find interesting within having a conversation. And also, because you're as you were mentioning, with post-production and with editing, you also have to look at it from the perspective of, you're writing to the video, you're
yeah,
writing to the press materials that are available to you. And usually when it comes to a lot of these films, the bigger movies, you sometimes get a little bit more, but the smaller movies, they'll only give you maybe the trailer and some production
yeah.
stills. So you kind of have to also write smart in that way, where you're writing,
Your
you
B-roll
know
makes sense because of what you're
yeah,
getting in
it's
the
connecting
APK.
with what is
Yeah,
being
yeah.
said, right? Visually, and also the audio kind of coming together to tell the story of your review.
In a concise way too,
Yeah.
right? Because our conversations can sometimes go 30, 40 minutes, sometimes more, oftentimes more, where I love the idea of writing something that's between 3 and 10 minutes, right? Like, especially on YouTube. We've been putting our podcasts out on YouTube for over a year now, but they are just podcasts, and not a lot of people just watch video podcasts on YouTube, right? Like, we're not optimizing what we do for YouTube. We're just kind of putting it on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So that style of review, I think, is more for YouTube, right? We'll still put them on podcast services and things like that if you want like little mini bite-sized, more written and uh produced reviews, but
Structured, and yeah.
structured reviews, but ideally they'll be kind of video reviews that we put on YouTube as well. So that's going to be in a test phase. Eric already does that very often for Rogers, so it'll be easy for him. For me,
Every
it'll be
week,
a little bit.
baby.
For me, it'll be a learning curve, and trying to, I think Eric will probably start with them, and then I'm going to try to jump in to do them here and there. So the way things might go is that Untitled Movie Podcast might be the feed that includes all of our conversational stuff. So it'll include the main shows as well as our conversational reviews. And then over on Untitled Movie Reviews, um, that will be the channel and the podcast feed for the shorter, bite-sized, which was always the intention with Untitled Movie Reviews. We wanted to do 15, 20 minutes. It's just Eric and I don't know when to shut the fuck up when we're talking about things, because we enjoy talking about things with one another. So they kind of go on much longer. So we just want, focus on, especially if we're going to have both channels, for them not to kind of be the same thing. That's at least my idea with what we do this year, which I think could be a lot of fun. And then, because originally we were talking about merging both of them together for one feed, I kind of like having two different feeds as long as they feel different. So I think doing conversational reviews on the main feed as well as the main show, and then doing these individual reviews over on the review feed. And maybe that'll only be twice a month as well. Maybe it'll be more. It just depends how inspired, and if Eric wants to do his director's cuts of his Rogers reviews over here or
The
whatever.
Madam
Like,
Web
yeah.
uncut version.
Yeah. So, because like Eric's really, they're strict on Rogers that they're usually what, 3 minutes, Eric,
three
and stuff
three to
like,
four
yeah.
minutes, and it's
Um,
it's usually like a lot of stuff does get cut out, and I'm not complaining about that. That's just the way it is, and I totally get it for what it is, because those reviews also air on television, and they're
yeah,
usually slotted in for a specific time, so you kind of have to not only write to the video or the viz that you're working with, but you also have to play to the
mhm,
clock that you're on, and especially when you're even taking those reviews and repurposing them, because I do this show, Cinema Scene in Review, where at the end of every month I take all the reviews from this past month and then repackage them again, because a lot of people don't necessarily see everything right away. It's not like us
especially
where we're
online and stuff like that too,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
and smaller movies and films that are kind of having those platform releases where they slowly start to expand. But when you're reviewing movies like we are, and film critics in general, you see so much so quickly, and usually ahead
yeah,
of time for writing purposes or for broadcast purposes, that you don't you take for granted, or you don't realize that a lot of people will see something that maybe you're talking about a month or two down the line, even if it is
right.
a bigger film. So, or at home, because more people are waiting now for a Pixar movie to end up on Disney Plus 3 months later. And so
Yeah,
those are things where it's like, okay, there still is some value in a review that maybe um doesn't meet the shelf life of coming out the week it's released, especially
for
this time
sure.
of year, because you get a lot of those platform releases, but also international films. Like, we'll be talking probably more about something like Perfect Days as it rolls out in January or February here, or maybe even in the early spring, because Elevation Pictures has it in Canada. It's a neon release, and we've already reviewed it, but mentioning it again on best of lists and things like that. So
Absolutely, yeah.
so films like that, it's I think it's worthwhile just to kind of focus on things that maybe, yeah, like, you have a couple extra points that you wanted to get through in something that's more condensed or refined, or then you have an opportunity to add a review that maybe is outside of the purview of what we're doing in terms of
Yeah,
the mainstream
the
stuff.
conversational stuff might be more mainstream, right? Because not I think that's just kind of I am the mainstream guy, but anything that
Matt Mainstream
mainstream
Rohrbeck.
Matt, yeah, that's what they call me, mainstream Matt, basic bitch. No, I do see a lot of I do see a lot of that stuff too, but sometimes it's just, we both have lives. It's hard to do it, and sometimes it weirdly, you'd think that it would be harder to sit down and write and record a review, but when you have to get two people who have different schedules, and meet up to do something, it's sometimes harder. Where if Eric can just record a voiceover and I have B-roll and he sends it to me and I work on my own time to edit it together, like sometimes that's easier than both of us finding time, especially in this small condo, right? Like I love my wife and I don't want to have to subject her to listening to Eric and I, usually just a one-way conversation because she only hears my side, in this tiny condo where she has to sit in the bedroom or has to put headphones on when I'm recording. So just kind of giving you guys the inside baseball of like some of the reasons why we've been inconsistent, but we're trying to figure out a way to still have that consistent output and try some new things, right? Like we've been doing this, Eric, me and you have been podcasting for like 10 years. It's
Ugh,
crazy.
it's gross.
Um,
And I've been
it's
almost doing the
wild. It's
Rogers thing
like,
now for 20.
yeah, it's
So
less than 10 because we've known each other for 10 years or no, 12 years, 13
yeah, because
years.
2011 was when we first
Yeah.
met.
So 12 years, coming up on 13 years. And actually that probably is 10 years because we got in very early in podcasting and we jumped and done shows, movie night and Toronto film scene
And we're so
uh,
successful.
yeah, and other places and now this, but I have the most fun doing this. So anyways, we'll
Yeah.
shut the fuck up because I know you guys want to hear what we
Kiefer
think.
Sutherland's top most
Stop
anticipated.
referencing Kiefer Sutherland. So okay, let's get into it. Anyways, I'm excited for this year. It's going to be a good year for us, and it's going to be a good year for everyone.
Yeah.
I want to start off, Eric, with looking back, not forward, to what were our most anticipated films of 2023 and see how that kind of netted out for us. I always like doing this and looking back and going, did everything live up to our expectations? What were our biggest fumbles of something that we were very excited for that really didn't live up to that hype? As well as also looking at the movies that didn't come this year and then put them, we always like to put those in a separate little thing and go, will they make the cut this year for the most anticipated? Because there's some that always kind of carry over, and then some where we're like, well, we're more excited for these things. So I will pull up our list from 2023 and give people a refresher of what our episode consisted of last year. And then we'll talk about did we even see all of these movies? Because I know for me, I still am playing catch up. I was so fucking busy the last month. I already tried to cram for the voting deadline for Critics' Choice nominations. And now that the nominations are out, I need to cram to try to catch up with a few things before voting because I do want to make sure I see everything before I vote in the actual awards. So there are some things even on this list that I still have yet to see, but plan on watching. And by the time you're listening to this, I probably watched them, but unfortunately we had to record this earlier just because everything I just said, the holidays are coming up and different things like that.
So
So
future Matt and mainstream Matt will
yeah.
meet in the middle.
Yeah. All right. So in alphabetical order, this was our list from 2023, which we made at the end of 2022. We had Asteroid City. We had Barbie. We had Beau is Afraid. We had The Bike Riders. We had Bottoms. We had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We had Handling the Undead. We had The Holdovers. The Boy and the Heron. I Saw the TV Glow. The Killer. Killers of the Flower Moon. The Iron Claw. Love Lies Bleeding. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Oppenheimer. Poor Things. Rebel Ridge. Saltburn. Saw X. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The Super Mario Brothers movie. And The Zone of Interest. Eric, I'm pretty like I think we put together a really fucking good list last year.
We
I gotta
did. We
say.
did. I mean,
Like there
getting you know who's who's in terms of our personal selections.
oh
But
totally.
yeah, but I think we had like just a really good sort of cross section of mainstream Matt titles and sort of eclectic Eric or
Yeah.
esoteric
I like
Eric.
to think I'm eclectic too, okay?
Yeah, you have some tendencies.
Esoteric's better. There you
Esoteric Eric. So aspects where it's like, okay, like Zone of Interest was on there, and we had Asteroid City and Barbie, and even though I think probably the biggest disappointment on that list for both of us is something like Saltburn because we were
Yeah.
expecting more from it, but even then, like we were aware of certain films that were coming out that maybe a lot of people weren't until they were announced at Cannes or at TIFF or the festival circuit in general, unless they follow the director or know the actor, and so like even with Parasite, like we picked Parasite before it was a big
a
deal.
thing. Yeah.
So,
So what we're saying is this
we're
list is
great.
probably the most important list in all of, the entertainment industry. Like, IndieWire and Hollywood Reporter and Variety should be looking at this list of the most anticipated films of 2024
Yeah.
to see, what we are, the tastemakers is what we're saying.
we we not only have taste, but we know what Kiefer Sutherland will be
God
watching
damn it!
in
No more Kiefer
2024.
Sutherland references.
Well,
Yeah,
they're
so
coming.
going through, like, obviously, I think you nailed it with Saltburn being probably our biggest disappointment. Not a horrible movie by any means, but when our expectations were up here, it made this list. Like Emerald Fennell loved Promising Young Woman. I still, don't get me wrong, if she was making another movie this year, there'd probably be a debate, but I'm still excited for whatever she does next. Like I will take um a even a derivative Emerald Fennell stylish kind of movie like Saltburn over most middle of the road things. So like at least it was interesting in the sense of, yeah, it didn't completely work, but at least it like had a voice and a style, and even if it was trying too hard, at least it was trying. So
Right.
I appreciate Saltburn, but it just didn't really work for me. And I know that there are some people who really love it, and my wife really enjoyed it, and I definitely see the appeal. It's just it is probably, out of everything on this list, the biggest disappointment for me.
Yeah, Emerald Fennell definitely took a bath on this one.
God. And we slurped up the water. Uh, Other than that, like, I'd say, we'll go through the disappointments first before moving on. I know there are a couple movies on here that were mainstream Matt picks that didn't really quite work out for Eric, and I know we had a debate
Well,
of
also vice
putting some of
versa
them
though,
on
because
there.
I think
Yeah.
like with Beau is Afraid, you just
Yeah.
did not dig that film where
No.
I don't know if I wasn't really anticipating, or I wasn't surprised by my reaction necessarily to the Super Mario Brothers
Or
movie per
Saw
se,
10.
or Saw 10. Those are for the kids. Uh,
And mainstream Matt.
and mainstream Matt. But yeah, I think like mostly everything on that list kind of tracked. There were more movies on there though that I think I liked even more a
Then
second time, or maybe
yeah,
more than I anticipated. Like something like Barbie. Like Barbie for us, I think was partly at the point when we picked it
we
a
weren't sure. Yeah.
curiosity, right?
Yeah.
But now what it's become is this cultural phenomenon, and you know,
Tastemakers, it was all us.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did it. We did it, Matt. We should pat ourselves on the back and be
We had
the
the
toasts
guts
of
to
the
put
town.
Barbenheimer on there. Remember, we almost didn't put Oppenheimer on there.
And that's
And
another one,
yeah,
talking about where like I'm still mixed on that movie.
yeah, yeah.
I like it, but I don't love it the way that some people do. And I like Christopher Nolan a lot. I think Tenet and Oppenheimer maybe are two of his sort of. I think Oppenheimer's a better movie than Tenet, but there's part of me that feels like, okay, maybe I'm a little burnt out on Nolan right now, and maybe that's also part of the reason why. And I think that's fair because of Nolan just being so. It's just funny thinking that Greta Gerwig is the savior of cinema of
Yeah.
2023 more than even Oppenheimer was, you
But
know.
I mean, I would still say both of them together, though.
Oh,
Like
they
it's
both did
almost a
really well,
tag
and
team championship for both of them,
yeah,
for absolutely sure.
and I'm happy that both of those movies kind of boosted, the box office and the theatrical experience and exhibitors, and also just inspired a lot of creativity and people going to the movies, and dressing up and sort of,
Oh yeah.
putting
It
together
was that night,
costumes and stuff like that.
and we've talked about it a lot on this show and things, but that night or that weekend, um and even the weeks after it, were amazing to see. Like what you just mentioned, people dressing up, the success of both of those movies that just kind of carried throughout the rest of the year and looks to be carrying into like award season and stuff too. It's really really wild, and it reminded you that cinema is like going, the theatrical experience is important, and people do love going if you give them a reason to go, right? Like there are certain things that yes, people can watch at home, and Disney struggled this year, and I'm sure we can have a whole episode of looking back at 2023 and kind of some of the trends that we saw in different things, and maybe that's a topic we will cover, but we'll try to focus on, what's upcoming this year other than this list right here. But that weekend was amazing. Yeah, we pretty much, like, certain things we knew. If you're a Wes Anderson person, you're a Wes Anderson person at this point. So I think both of us really enjoyed Asteroid City. We both love Barbie, I think. But like what you mentioned at that time, I think only that first trailer came out and we were both kind of like, what is this movie and what is the tone and, like, what is it about? And so it was a curiosity. Beau is Afraid, I think, it didn't quite work for me, but much like what I just said about Saltburn is, like, kind of, I can just copy and paste it over to Beau is Afraid, where I will take a pardon the pun, ballsy Ari Aster movie over and if you haven't seen the movie, you don't know what that reference is, but over most things, right? Like, Beau is Afraid didn't work for me. I understand why it works for others. I'll take that 9 times out of 10 over fucking Madam Web or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
some generic looking. Actually, Madam Web I shouldn't put in that category because it looks fucking ridiculous. But
But also that trailer is deceiving because I think almost like, again, we haven't seen Madam Web yet, so
we're
we
not
can't.
talking about 2024 yet.
No, I know that. We're not talking about Kiefer Sutherland yet, but I think part of why that movie will be a bigger disappointment is the trailer, because the trailer is so
Makes it look
ridiculous
campy and
it's going to
fun
be boring.
almost.
It's going to be
Yeah.
boring. Like Venom was boring. Venom 2 was boring.
Yeah.
Like these Sony verse MCU
I almost wish, like,
adjacent movies
yeah.
don't work, and part of
Because
it
if
is
they
just because they're
committed to
not
yeah,
interesting.
if they committed to the bit of being like a cheesy mid 2000s Final Destination kind of movie, then,
Or
like,
Catwoman.
or something like that. Yeah, but I don't think Catwoman was committing to a bit either.
No,
Anyways,
but that's what made it funny at that
yeah,
time, because it was
sure.
so ridiculous when you had like the basketball sequence with Halle Berry
Oh
and
my
Benjamin
good
Bratt and
lord. Yeah.
how that played out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just going back to it quickly as well. It's also very funny that our highest viewed video on YouTube is the Ari Aster
Oh yeah.
interview,
Well, that was
and
a
it
great
has
interview.
no
You did
video. It has no.
Oh, really?
No,
It's just audio?
It's just audio.
Oh, right. All right, well, whatever. People want, like, but the thing is, it was 10 minutes long and it was a
Yeah.
good conversation, right? That's what people want, is, like, if you look at most successful YouTube videos, it's 10 and 11 minutes, right? So that,
Yeah.
like, that's the sweet spot. Okay, moving on. Bike Riders got punted to next year. It got dropped by Disney and Searchlight and
Poor
picked up
Jeff
by
Nichols.
immediately, which is good, by Focus Features. Originally was supposed to come out, and then at the very last second, Disney decided against it. It did even screen at, was it AFI or
And Telluride.
yeah, Telluride. So
I mean,
it
we
did.
missed out on Accents the movie.
Oh god, yeah. So I put it onto a separate list, which is our will it carry over to this year or not. So that's one that did not come out. Bottoms, I think we both enjoyed. I think what maybe not as much as I wanted to, but still, like, an enjoyable kind of ridiculous silly comedy. So I'm glad we put it on this list, and I'm happy it was at least good. I didn't like it as much as Shiva Baby, so maybe the expectations in play there, but I still think it's a worthy thing to be on this list, and I'm glad it actually ended up being decent.
Yeah, and I think it also continues, Rachel Sennott and Emma Sligman's sort of, slow domination of sort of twisted comedies, but kind of play within the same kind of milieu as what someone like Ari Aster is right now, where there's that anxiety sort of inducing quality to the narrative that kind of makes you question what genre is this, and almost like it's adapting into something else, or mutating into something else. And Emma Sligman was talking a little bit about this when she was doing the press for Bottoms, is that this might actually, like, her third film, whatever she decides to do, might actually be in the vein of a horror movie. And if that is, like, you look at Shiva Baby, and that has elements of, anxiety and depression and tension, kind of slowly but surely coming to a crescendo. And with this, like, I just feel like she was kind of playing with Bottom. She was playing more within that kind of campy, enjoyable B movie that is in a heightened reality. And
Yeah.
if you are interested in that, like, that will hook you. But then also, I think maybe some of the serious, or at least some of the things that it's addressing in terms of the social
The
commentary,
tonal shifts don't completely
don't
work.
work as well, even though they're admirable in terms of bringing them up and discussing them, but they didn't have the impact that maybe you would hope for, in terms of finding that balance between
Yeah.
the comedy and the commentary.
Next up, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think we picked the right Marvel movie. I remember we were debating on which one to put in. I know you didn't love Volume 3, but I still think you enjoyed it,
It was
right?
well made. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
very well made. I think part of my problem with that movie was they sideline Rocket for most of this story, even though it is his story. And there's some of the beats within it that feel a little bit odd in terms of the relationship that Rocket has to certain characters, especially the way that they kind of have this emotional connection between Peter and Rocket, and then Groot's just standing there. It's very much like the way that after Han Solo dies in Force Awakens, you have Princess
Spoilers.
Leia going to, yes, spoiler alert, hug Rey instead of
Yeah.
even talking to Chewie. And it's like, well,
I do
Chewie
understand that. Yeah,
has more of that
Chewie and Groot just
relationship.
get
Yeah,
sidelined because they're these silent kind of characters, and we're not completely silent with Groot, but I
right.
definitely understand where you're coming
And
from.
also, I think the villain was kind of one note. I think, like, the villain was just
That's where I think
literally,
you guys can go back to a review, but for me, loved it. I think it hit at the right time for me. It was it was my first movie back after my struggles earlier in the year, and it really hit me hard on both an emotional level and on an entertainment side of things. I thought it was a great closeout to James Gunn's trilogy and to those characters. It did at that time we were still in that weird spot with Marvel where we were kind of up and down. I do think it's an up point. So I think out of I forget this is where my brain is at. Like what were we even debating between that and
well, I think it was the
uh
Marvels, which was the other one,
yeah,
which actually
right.
wasn't as bad as a lot of people made out to be. Like, I
Which
think it
I
was
also
just more
enjoyed,
of
but
a
I
one-off than
I
anything
I
else.
enjoyed the emotional impact of Guardians more than the Marvels, even though I still enjoyed the Marvels. But I think again, to put a Marvel movie, mainstream Matt has to kind of try to still do that. So I was happy
And let's just
with the
ignore
pick on there.
Ant-Man and the Wasp:
Yeah,
Quantumania
no. I forgot that was
for the end
this
of
last
time.
year. Yeah. I think we were even debating between that.
Oh,
At
God.
that time, I think we were because like we're like, oh, it could be like a big deal but then we ultimately were like, but it's Ant-Man. So
Yeah.
like we didn't.
Fuck it.
Um Handling the Undead is one that we are going to punt because it did not come out this year. Eric, did you want to talk about it a little bit? You know more about this than I do.
Yeah, so it is playing at Sundance, and it is a neon release, and there's a trailer for it, and it actually looks quite good. It's from so it's not, the author has nothing to do with it, but the book that it's based on is from the same author who did Let the Right One In. And you have the two
Right.
leads from The Worst Person in the World in this movie, and it's about um people in like the, like, loved ones who have lost somebody recently, coming back from the dead and trying to be reintegrated into society. And it almost looks a little bit like, because I remember reading the book after Let the Right One In, and what I remember from the book is that it's kind of split into three stories that kind of connect, and one of which is like with an older man who's lost someone, and a mother, and somebody, I can't remember the other person. But it very much, like, in terms of like what the trailer is, it almost plays almost a little bit like Pet Cemetery. Like, it has that kind of feeling
Okay.
where, like, the person that comes back isn't really the same person anymore, and you kind of have to understand that they're dangerous and they're not completely what you thought
Okay.
of them to be, and so
Cool.
like you have to kind of get over that.
Now I kind of remember you discussing this last year. So yeah, I mean, I put that on a list, and we'll debate it when we do this year's list. We should probably try to go faster. Of course, we're like, hey, it's most anticipated. We're already a half an hour in. I'll power through the rest of the list. We don't have to talk about every single movie, but just brief thoughts. Holdovers, I think, great choice by us. One of my favorite movies of TIFF, one of my favorite movies of the year. I think it is in the running for a conversation we've had on this show before that I have with people all the time of what is the most recent Christmas classic. It's not necessarily a Christmas movie specifically, but I would put it as categorize it as a Christmas movie. And I think it is a great holiday movie, a melancholy kind of, both sad and happy kind of Christmas movie. But I think it's great. And I think we both really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's well worth being on this list, and good choice by us.
Yes, Paul Giamatti forever, and this is a better Christmas movie than a Muppets Christmas Carol.
I fucking hate you so much. The Boy and the Heron. I gave this no on our review was 4 because I gave it I think 3.5 and you gave it 4.5.
Yeah,
We both liked it. You liked it really like a lot.
I
It was
did.
I saw your
Great year for animation.
yeah, it is. And I would love to see it again cuz in a haze of TIFF on opening night, even still being in a haze then. I liked it but didn't love it. But I still think very worthy of being on this list and a good choice by
Yeah,
us.
we're great. I know. Pat ourselves on the back.
Tastemakers. I saw the TV Glow, another one that didn't come
Playing
out,
at
but it was
Sundance though.
there we go. We just chose a bunch of uh, Sundance, which we will not be covering, but that's okay. Um, Eric and I can't afford to go down there, so and no
No.
digital is in our future for this year. So unfortunately, no Sundance coverage, which is probably a blessing in disguise. Honestly, like we just let us settle down and figure everything out. But I saw the TV Glow. We'll debate that later in the show. I'm still very excited for it. I'll go through we're going to do 2 at a time now. So Killer and Killers of the Flower Moon, Fincher, Scorsese, the Fincher movie, I'll speak on because I haven't seen Killers of the Flower Moon yet. Um, Loved it. Very funny, stylish, exactly what you wanted from it. I think it's excellent. We both really liked it. We reviewed it. You guys can check out our review. And then Killers of the Flower Moon. One that has eluded me. Yes, I am a basic boy, basic bitch. The
Mainstream Matt strikes
main
again.
mainstream Matt sees 3.5 hours and he needs to work up the courage to go do it. So I haven't watched it yet. Will I watch it by the time you're listening to this? I hope so. I've been hovering around it since it came out. I really will sit down and watch it over this break because I have 3.5 weeks off. So my
Three and a
plan
half
is to
weeks, 3.5 hours. You do the
that's
math.
watch. There you go. Watch 1 hour per week, and I'm good, right?
Yep.
So Quibi, baby. But obviously, Eric, you really enjoyed it.
I like both. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think Killers of the Flower Moon is a film that you need time to really digest, even after that first watch, and the meaning of it, and what it represents, and the conversation that it started, even at Cannes. But it is a film where I think everybody that sees it will definitely want to have that conversation, whether it's representing indigenous rights in a favorable way, if it's focusing too much on the white characters, if the narrative is looking at the idea of how do you handle material that has tragedy sort of interwoven into the narrative, that's both from the historical aspect of America but also thinking about whose story it is. Lily Gladstone, I think, is amazing in the movie. DiCaprio does some incredible character work that's outside of his purview, and De Niro is just evil incarnate in the movie. And Scorsese, I think, really is challenging himself in his 80s to kind of continue to push the form and experiment. And Robbie Robertson's Um, Score is just fascinating in terms of how it sort of melds together the Western sort of style and tropes, but also, bringing in that kind of rock and roll quality that you'd expect from a Scorsese movie. So there's a lot there. And then with The Killer, I think it's just a fun Friday
Yeah.
night flick, that makes you feel seen because Michael Fassbender eats McDonald's and hangs out in a WeWork.
Love it, love it, love it. Another movie I haven't seen, it's coming out this week actually, which is The Iron Claw. Um, Eric, you liked it, didn't love it, correct?
Yes, it's very good. It's
Yeah,
a very well made story in terms of how it plays with, again, talking about tragedy and sort of focusing on this story within the wrestling community and a family that has gone through so much hardship. Part of me is fixated though on something that's not included in the narrative that does feel a little bit strange. And you can go and see my Rogers TV review to kind of get the nuts and bolts of that, but honestly, well acted across the board. I think Holt McElhaney as the abusive patriarch in particular is fantastic. One of those great character actors that you've probably seen in David Fincher movies, whether it be small roles in Alien 3 and, blink and you miss it in Fight Club, but then also in Mind Hunters, and then he's in Michael Mann's Black Hat, and he was more recently in Nightmare Alley briefly. Just one of those
yeah,
guys that's always really good and gets a really substantial role that kind of haunts the movie. Zac Efron's pretty solid as well, but yeah, it's one of those films. Sean Durkin is a guy that like I'm always excited to see, and it's nice that it didn't take him
same.
8 or 9 years in between
Again,
movies to
yeah.
to get something made,
The Nest
because
was an underrated little
very
movie. Yeah,
underrated. And I think I like the Nest more just in terms of his output, but
yeah.
the Iron Claw is definitely worth seeing and more commercial than I thought it would be as
Cool.
well.
I'm gonna go see it with your brother and our friend Ryan because we're big wrestling fans.
Sweaty
So
Boys Night Out,
yeah, sweaty boys
but
just
the sweat will be the tears
crying.
coming
Yeah,
from your
crying.
face.
Next, Love Lies Bleeding trailer just dropped. It looks awesome. We'll talk about that a little
Give
bit
me some
later
of that Ed
because
Harris with that wild
that
hair.
sick mullet, bro. So we'll talk about that soon because we have 5 total movies that actually didn't come out this year, which seems about average for us. So which we'll have to predict which 5 won't come out that we put on this year's list. Saltburn. No, I skipped over a bunch. Let's power through a bunch. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. I think we both really liked it.
Fun movie.
Fun movie.
Tom
Excited
Cruise hated
for part
Barbenheimer the
2.
most though.
Yeah, I know. Fun movie. I'm excited for part 2, even though it'll be confusing because it doesn't look like they're gonna call it part 2. So this movie
So
will
we'll never
forever be
get part
called
2.
this movie will forever be called Dead Reckoning Part 1, and there'll be no part 2 ever. Oppenheimer, we talked about it a lot with the Barbenheimer stuff, so we don't really need to go over that again, but I still think I'm glad we ended up putting the Nolan movie because we almost didn't. We were like, maybe our ballsy choice will be we won't put the Nolan movie. Poor Things. We'll talk a lot about that on. You probably already heard us talk a lot about it on our best films of the year, even though we haven't recorded that yet. That's how time works. Um,
Non-linear, even though you're
yeah,
working with Avid, which you have to be
yeah,
linear with.
no. Um,
Fuck Avid.
so we both love Poor Things, so that was a great choice by us.
Yeah,
Rebel Ridge,
tastemakers.
tastemakers, us. Um, Jeremy Saulnier's Rebel Ridge did not come out, so we'll see if that makes the cut this year.
Back in the
Saltburn,
pile.
Saltburn, we talked a lot about, which we already said was probably our biggest disappointment so far. Probably like the only one that is a huge disappointment on this list.
Yeah.
Like
A
like you
legitimate
said,
disappointment.
with Saw 10 and Super Mario Brothers, which we can go over now, those are very Matt movies. I fought for those. Mainstream Matt fought for those to be on the list. They lived up to my expectations, baby. So
You
I'm
give
glad that they're on
Super
there.
Mario
So
Brothers 5 stars on Letterboxd.
it's great. Yeah, it's fantastic. So it's perfect for what it is. So both of those, I get those aren't Eric movies, so you know, perfect expectations for both of us for those.
Yes.
Across the Spider-Verse obviously lived up to that and more. And then the Zone of Interest, which was the one that you probably fought for last year
Yep.
that I didn't know a ton about.
You're welcome.
And Jonathan Glazer wasn't someone that I'd really super familiar. I knew of his work, but I hadn't really watched anything from him. So I'm so glad I saw that with you, and it is haunting and one of the best films of the year, if not the best film of the year. So I think overall, man, really good list from last year. So
I know
I
we are the tastemakers of
tastemakers,
2023 to
yeah.
2024. Can we
So
do it again, Matt? Can we bring that Kiefer Sutherland energy to 2024?
all right, so let's do it. So let me take a time code here. So that was our list from last year.
God, 42 minutes into this, and we haven't even gotten
we're
to the
back,
drafting
baby.
portion.
We're back, baby. All right, we're gonna move to the drafting of the 24 most anticipated films of 2024.
Brought to you by Ivan Reitman's Draft Day, starring Kevin Costner.
R.I.P.
Also, R.I.P. to Chadwick Boseman, who's also in that movie. He's actually very good in that film.
Yeah, he is actually. That movie is not great though.
No.
All right, so where do we want to? We have 5 movies from.
Okay, let's start with this. Is there anything off the top of your head, cold calling you, that you are really excited for in 2024?
There's lots, man, but
just one. Just name one that like you feel like it has to be on this list. It's got to be there.
Is it a mainstream Matt pick, or
it can be
something
Matt? It can be mainstream Matt. It can be esoteric Eric. It can be Kiefer Sutherland. It can be whatever you want.
I'm gonna throw out one that I think is gonna be on both of ours. That I think is almost a lock if we're picking 24 movies.
Yeah,
which is Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17.
Yes.
I'm going to throw that out there. I
feel like Matt is here to play.
I feel like that is one that I know we're in agreement with, that is probably going to be on the list, like no matter what. So I'll throw that one out first.
I love it.
So anyways, how this is going to work, guys, we're just going to throw out movies. We're going to start throwing them on this list. If we get more than 25, we're going to have to start 24. Fighting over things, or 24. Sorry,
please, Kiefer, don't get him mad.
Sometimes Eric and I make deals of being like, let me put Saw 10 and Super Mario Brothers on the list.
Saw 11 be on this list.
We'll see. So
I almost think it has to. I almost think you have to put it on.
It's a tradition. If it's Halloween, it must be Saw.
God, for fuck's sakes.
So I'm gonna throw out Mickey 17 first as a pretty much lock.
Yeah, I think that's locked and loaded. I mean, it's Bong Joon-ho, so automatically, that's something that I think a lot of people, including ourselves, will be interested in. He's teaming up with Robert Pattinson. It's following up Parasite, so there's going to be even more anticipation and hype around it. His English language movies don't necessarily have the same kind of, I guess, sort of overall critical acclaim. Like Okja did well, and Snowpiercer did well, but
I love Snowpiercer.
They're both great. But I do think that there is a section of people that like, his Korean films more than his sort of multi sort of language and cultural films. But I love everything of his. Like he hasn't really made a bad movie. So of course Mickey 17 is going to be on this list, whether or not it comes out in March, which I don't think it will. I think Warner Brothers will probably
punt it to
later in the year. They'll probably try to get it to play at Cannes, because why not, right? I mean, Parasite played at Cannes, return to the place where you won the Palme d'Or with a director who...
My wife saw Parasite at Cannes, and I'm... God damn it!
That must have been like one of those once in a lifetime experiences. We just saw in LA Across the Spider-Verse, sort of the live music accompaniment with Daniel Pemberton conducting and playing alongside the Los Angeles Symphony. So like those are those kind of experiences that you do really cherish as a film goer, because they don't happen often. So something like you're just saying, where Nevis got to see Parasite in that year where
That
Parasite
premiere,
and
yeah.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood both played the festival, is incredible. And so like that's another reason why I think like even we were very critical of TIFF last year because they didn't get a lot of the titles that we came to actually love later on.
Yeah.
When you get a movie that surges at a festival, especially when you're watching it like that, it's so exciting.
Yeah,
So
when you
yeah,
didn't
Mickey
know much going
17
in, but yeah.
has to be on this list.
So then I'll throw it back to you. Anything that you think is going to be it doesn't actually have to be a lock. It can be whatever you want. I just thought I'd throw it locks first, but
Yeah.
however you want to
So
do it.
my most anticipated film of this year, I think probably would be a lock for both of us. Steve McQueen's World War II drama Blitz, which is about the London bombings in the 1940s. You have Saoirse Ronan in the lead role. Steve McQueen, another filmmaker who hasn't made a bad film and continues to push the medium as a visual artist, and finds interesting ways to tell stories that you wouldn't otherwise predict in terms of how they're structured, and has really amazing commentary within you know big blockbuster films, because you look at
Mhm.
how underrated Widows is, and you look
Widows,
at that
man.
one sequence in the car which is just phenomenal.
Criminally underrated, that movie. Yeah.
So with him making this World War II movie with Apple, I'm very excited to see how that's going to turn out, and especially because McQueen I think is, if not the best working filmmaker, especially in our time. And I mean, for me, Hunger is one of the, if not one of the best debuts ever. So I will always be excited to see his new Steve McQueen movie.
Same here. So I'm okay with that. I think that is as close to a lock as you could possibly get. Same with
Yes,
Mickey
John
17.
Locke.
I'm gonna throw out that one that might not be a lock, but mainstream Matt needs to throw it out there. I think because of certain reasons it might not, but I still think it will make this list. I gotta throw out Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Okay,
I'm very
you ballin'?
very excited for it. Yeah, I think that's maybe the one mystery, or like I like the Maze Runner movies. Don't get me wrong. I think Wes Ball did a good job with those movies. I think they're kind of weirdly underrated in the young adult genre. I actually thought they were pretty solid, and I think his aesthetic and doing those movies really fits what they're going for with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I love that new Planet of the Apes trilogy. I call it the Matt Reeves trilogy, but really he only did 2 out of the 3. But um, I think those movies are underrated, even though they did very, very well. I just don't feel like they're talked about on the same level as some other like big Hollywood blockbusters. So I'm so glad after Disney acquired Fox that they it doesn't surprise me because it's the one like a big franchise Fox had, but they're continuing that in the same continuity, even though it's 300 years later. Um, and none of the current apes, or at least this new leader, or whatever's the movie's going to be about, has any knowledge of Caesar, which doesn't make sense to me. At least that's what I've been reading. But I love those Planet of the Apes movies. I'm excited to see them continue. I liked the teaser that they dropped. I liked the time jump. I think Wes Ball, especially him now doing the Legend of Zelda movie as well,
Which is
signed
going
on
to be
for
live
that.
action, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, I probably would have preferred like an animated film, but I'm open to if they go the um Tears of the Kingdom, kind of the more modern Zelda games, if they go that continuity or that storyline, I could see his aesthetic again working pretty well with that. But I think my curiosity of him doing that movie as well. So I'm gonna throw that out there. I'm not gonna say it's a lock because we could get to it and go, okay, maybe we're gonna bump Planet of the Apes off. But I think right now I have a good feeling about being excited for that movie.
I'm also excited about it, and I think like you're right where the Matt Reeves films, but even the Rupert Wyatt movie,
Still very good.
are hugely underrated as a franchise, and some of the best motion capture in film. Like the
Yeah.
de-aging, I don't think has been completely successful, even when it is good, it's still artificial in some way, but the way in which we see, the apes and sort of the primate characters come to life in these amazing performances led by Andy Serkis, you do have this sense of a connection to the characters, and it doesn't lose anything because there's a part of you that really does appreciate the man in the suit or the woman in the suit, where even though you can tell it's not real, there's a practical quality to it, and it won't date the way that some technology does. But the way that the Planet of the Apes movies that Matt Reeves has directed have dated, they're aging like a fine wine in
Yeah.
terms of CGI and practical effects. And partly I think it's to do with performance and Matt Reeves' direction and understanding the technology, and looking what he kind of did with the character of Caesar and his arc from Rise down to War, and those movies really play beautifully individually but as a whole, and kind of really represent the entire franchise, going back to the original 1960s, and even what Rod Serling was doing with the adaptation. So yeah, I think it is very much worthy of being considered, and probably near a lock anyways, and just again an underrated franchise as a whole.
I appreciate that. Okay, like I made it. I mean, I appreciate it because I put it on the list. Okay, do you have another one?
I do. Sean Baker's Honora, a film that was picked up by Neon. Sean Baker is a director as well that I think one of the best American filmmakers working right now, kind of experimenting with sort of a hybrid of um, heightened realism using both uh, professional actors and non-actors in creating environments and situations that are tense, funny, and have something to say about the world we live in now. We both loved Red Rocket, which had an amazing Simon Rex performance in that. And then, before then, the Florida Project, which was both heartbreaking but funny and subversive. And then Tangerine. Like, this guy is on a roll. He really finds incredible nuance and people to put in his films that you are just completely fixated on. And Honora sounds like it will be in that vein. There's not a lot on it in terms of a description right now, but following those movies I already mentioned, it'll be very exciting to see what Honora becomes. And it probably will play Can, because a lot of his movies have played, whether in competition or not, at Cannes. And so with Honora being picked up by Neon so early at the American film market, like Parasite was, it says something about the quality of the film. And also thinking about, okay, this is a cast of mostly unknowns. Mickey Madsen, who's probably best known for her role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She's the one that gets lit on fire by Leonardo DiCaprio. She's also in Scream 6, 5, pardon me, because I keep on thinking, yeah, so Scream 5. So really exciting to see Baker kind of continue on his way in terms of creating American stories that click, I think, with the modern day audience.
Love it. I love Sean Baker, so I'm absolutely down for that, and I think that's as close to a lock as you could get as well. Um, I'll throw out another movie by another filmmaker. I think we would both have this on our list. Although because of its release date, it could easily be the one of the movies that gets punted into 2025. But you got to throw Jordan Peele's next movie on
Yes,
there.
his Untitled film. This,
Yes.
like you said, though, it could very well be a movie because of the strikes and everything being
Yeah, it's
moved
currently
around. So
end of December of 2024, right? Like Christmas Day, right?
yeah,
So I think, unless it starts rolling early next year, I can see that possibly coming out in 2025, I'm going to say it now, it probably will, but I'd hate to not put it on this list. Does that make sense?
yeah. Well, especially when you think of, okay, it's a Universal film. um, the date is still set, but then you also have another movie that I think is going to be on this list that is also playing at that time as well next year.
Just go for it now. Why not?
Nosferatu.
Yeah, I had yeah.
Robert Eggers' Nosferatu.
Yeah, which is also the same exact day, right?
Yep.
Or at least yeah. So I could
Nothing says
see,
Christmas like Dracula.
and they're both Universal, and they're both horror movies,
Yeah.
probably, right? So
But I think Jordan Peele's has some sort of Christmas theme or adjacent to it.
interesting. Yes. So I think maybe they will. So would it get punted a whole year if they
It
don't
might be. I
make
mean,
this
you
Christmas?
give Jordan Peele the time
Oh
he
yeah, and he's
needs,
working on
you
that
know.
game with Kojima now, so who knows? Or maybe he was doing that during the strike because that wouldn't have been breaking any rules. So, although wait, he's a writer and a director and an actor, so
But if he's not
um,
acting in it,
yeah, if he's just writing video games or helping work on that, so that's interesting. I agree. Throw Nosferatu on there. Let's stick within the Universal monsters. I think the Radio Silence Universal monster movie too sounds really interesting. I don't know if it makes this list, but I'll throw it out there. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
yeah. So this is the
Um,
one with they're reteaming with Melissa Barrera, right?
yes.
Yeah,
So it's basically, again, the rumor is that it is inspired by Dracula's daughter.
which would
Um,
be amazing if that's the title,
yeah.
Dracula's Daughter,
So revolve around a
2000.
group of kidnappers abducting young people. Um, Universal stated that the film will be a unique take on the legendary monster lore and will represent a fresh new direction for how to celebrate these classic characters.
R.I.P.
Um,
Dark Universe
I don't. I mean, I've liked their Scream movies.
and Ready or
I
Not.
Yeah, and Ready or Not. So, I'm willing to throw it on there. Is it? We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, because we don't know a lot about it either. Like it's a film where I think those guys they're solid. They're really solid journeyman directors and they're good genre filmmakers, but at the same time is there that anticipation in terms of putting it on a best of list where almost like if we did like lists that were based on like curiosity or
Oh, totally.
potential
But I think the potential of
surprises.
what it could be can still be anticipated, right?
Oh,
Like
definitely. I think Dan Stevens
you
is
got
in it too,
Dan
right?
Stevens, you got
The guest himself.
Kevin Durand from Lost and other
God. Oh,
things.
there's a
um,
minus right there.
um,
I liked him on Lost. He's kind of terrible in a lot of
oh,
stuff.
I don't disagree, but Catherine Newton, who I like, Giancarlo Esposito. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm throwing it out there because we were on the horror Universal
Right.
monster movie thing. I don't know if
I mean,
it
there's a difference though
makes it.
between Willem Dafoe looking like the Hatbox Ghost
Yeah,
and
and
the Radio
Nosferatu.
Silence guys making Dracula's Daughter
Yeah,
2000, which I would be amazing if it was a sequel to Dracula 2000 with Gerard
yeah,
Butler as Dracula.
yeah. Love it, love it. Do you want to throw another one out?
Yes, Matt, I think this is something we might both agree on too. David Lowery has a film that he is finishing up
Oh,
called
right.
Mother Mary. And this is about a famous fictional musician and fashion designer teaming up or having barbs, and it has Anne Hathaway in the lead role. So I'm very excited for anything David Lowery.
Same.
You
Yeah,
know, even Peter Pan and Wendy, which wasn't perfect. There was
wasn't my
elements
thing, but yeah,
within it that I think worked. I thought Jude Law was very good in that movie, but Lowry's one of those guys, like a Steven Soderbergh, where every time he's working on something, you always kind of get excited about the
absolutely.
possibility of what it could be, you know?
I absolutely agree. Love David Lowery. I will David allow it
A
on.
Lowry it?
I'm gonna throw out Alex Garland's Civil War as the
Ooh.
next one. I know Men didn't quite work for everyone. A movie that I think you were mixed on, right?
Mixed positive. Yeah, but it
Yeah,
felt like it would have been an even better short than a feature.
I understand that. The trailer for this just dropped, and I think with the Death Stranding news from A24 and this, This looks to be their most expensive movie. It looks like it's bordering on that blockbuster territory, unsettling because of everything that's happening right now in the world. That it was
America.
an interesting time to drop that trailer, but I do think it looks really, really fucking good, and exactly the type of I love this alternate future history kind of thing, borderlining on apocalyptic, but just a civil war in the United States. I think is really, really interesting, and the cast is fantastic. Jesse Plemons in those fucking sunglasses is incredible. And Nick Offerman as the president, reteaming him from Devs with Alex Garland, and I'm all in on this, so I want to throw it out there as a possibility.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, where I think Alex Garland is a filmmaker that every time he releases something, even if it's not on the same level as Annihilation and Ex Machina and Devs, I think he always has something to say, and he says it in an interesting manner. Um, and this, looking at it, almost feels even more removed. There's the science fiction aspect of it, but it's almost like A24's version of The Purge in a
Yeah.
way, like in terms of how it's being sold, but with a bigger budget than even a Blumhouse production. So, when you think about those elements coming together and seeing what Garland can do with a bigger budget and maybe a little bit more time, it'll be exciting to see how it all plays together. And yeah, I even look at something like Devs, which I still think is just phenomenal and criminally underrated as a mini series or season of
Still gotta watch
television.
it, man.
It's so good. It is.
I
It's
know
one
I'll
of those
love it.
shows
I
that
know
you
I'll love it, but I
you
just
will.
gotta
It's
do
just
it.
finding the time, right? Like
Yeah.
it's really hard to when you've got so much going on. But it is one of those shows that if you love Alex Garland, but also heady sci-fi, it's kind of just like the perfect melding of worlds. So yeah, Civil War is definitely one that I think a lot of people will be excited about in the spring. And it's not a film that's like that far away in terms
Yeah.
of what the possibility of potentially an exciting action thriller from A24, and this will probably give us some insight into terms of like what they're looking for moving forward, because we were making
Yeah.
the joke about like, oh, they're going to make Michael Bay movies now, where
Yeah.
they're going to take over the studio system in a
Well, they
way.
just did that deal with The Rock, right, for that
Yeah.
UFC movie and stuff like that too. So they definitely are trying to make bigger movies or more commercial movies for more mainstream Matt movies. I mean, I loved A24 before that too, but it's interesting to see if they're just going to try to balance, both the weird art house stuff with a little bit more mainstream stuff that has either an edge to it or a message or is saying something. I'm interested to see what this new kind of direction for them will be. So I'm curious, and Civil War looks great. So yeah, I'm down. Your next one, throw one out there.
Yes. So I'm looking at some films right now because it's strange, because we were talking about the Jordan Peele movie, and
Yeah.
part of what's going on right now is that we don't know what's going into production this year, what
Yeah.
is going to
It's
end
a
up.
weird one because of the strike too, right? Like I went through the release date calendar. The first half of the year has a shit ton, and the second half is pretty quiet from
Yeah.
from release dates that we have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so I'm just looking at this list, and it is a little bit more slim just in terms of what we're looking for here, but a film I would like to consider, because the first two have been pretty solid. This is kind of like another Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes thing, where it's it could be more almost, or the Radio Silence thing, where it could be more of a curiosity than it is maybe a contender. But I would like to see what Ty West does with Maxine,
Hmm.
his final film with Mia Goth in the X trilogy of films with X and Pearl.
Yeah.
Um, and because it's set in the 80s and it has kind of an all-star cast of kind of bigger names than the last two films, it'll be very interesting to see how the narrative plays. But it also could just be something where it's more of just a sort
What
of
you'd
entertainment
expect, or
first and
yeah.
foremost. Yeah, yeah, and so with that, it could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely down. Enjoyed the hell out of those first two films, and I think because of how good those first two films are, makes it worth considering for this, because I don't think we would have put Pearl or um oh my god, why am I blanking on the first one?
Oh, X.
X. Of course it's X, you fucking idiot. Um, uh, I'm looking at the logo for Maxine right now. I'm like, yeah, of course that's three X's in it. Idiot. Um, I think both of those movies are so enjoyable that I think it's earned that for sure. So yeah, let's throw it on there, and we can think about it later. Once we get there. I'll throw out if this movie, again, it's so hard to tell like what's going to actually come out, because certain things have to go back into shooting, and like will they finish post production before the date they originally had and things like that. Like I'll throw out right now and we can debate if we think it's going to come out this year. Gladiator 2. Is it coming out this year?
I think it will. I think that does come out this year
Because
because
they were
Ridley
like three
Scott is just
quarters
a
of the way. Oh yeah, and
warhorse when
he's
it comes
crazy.
to like like he'll. I think he's pretty. I think the movie is pretty much finished now. Like
Yeah,
Paul Mescal's been kind of doing the rounds for All of
yeah.
Us Strangers and talking about it. And I think they only had a couple more weeks to shoot, so they're probably like even right now just finishing it up. And I think Ridley Scott was even editing the film what they had during the strike. So I think that that will be a film that comes out this year. It might be at the very end of the year now, just in terms of like post production and, um, considering
So I'm going to
like,
throw that out because
yeah,
I feel like, you have to throw Gladiator 2 on here, I think. With Paul Mescal leading, you have Denzel, you got our boy Fred Hershinger. Just he took a little bit of a break this year. He
well,
was
he
in everything
replaced
the year
Barry
before.
Keoghan though too, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So I'm Pedro Pascal, it's really going back to, Gladiator. I think this is something that definitely will probably be on this list.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is a film that's interesting that we're finally going. Ridley Scott's finally going back to the well on this one. He's
Yeah.
already kind of rehashed Blade Runner as a producer with Blade Runner 2049 and with Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and this is like his other, obviously Thelma and Louise, but that's one that you really can't go back to.
Sure.
um but
Prequel.
yeah, pretty cool, although it'd be very depressing
I know.
and horrible. But with Gladiator, that's kind of like his last big kind of movie in
That
terms of
people
like
have
his,
wanted for a while, right?
yeah.
And
and
stuff
and
like
and
that.
I think there is that it was
With
never
Ridley, it
going,
could go either way, but
yeah,
I
and it was never going to happen, but like the version that people wanted for so long was
wasn't it
that
like him
Nick
in the
Cave and,
afterlife.
yeah, and Warren Ellis script where it was him fighting Hades in
Yeah,
hell. And
that sounds
um
awesome though
oh, it
too.
does,
But
it sounds
like,
amazing, but once you become an Oscar winning film, you can't be fun anymore,
yeah, that's
you
true.
know. um
I
yeah.
think it's something we can debate it later too, but because again, Ridley up and down for me, but I think Gladiator 2 is going to be one of the most anticipated films of the year for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, anything you want to throw out next?
Yeah, I know this is going to be one that is probably going to be me having to defend this, and I'll admit, like, the trailer wasn't as interesting or as compelling as I wanted it to be because I loved the last one so much. Is Furiosa? I think Furiosa definitely has to at least
I'll
be considered.
yes, I will I will say okay, we can put it on the list because like I'm not gonna veto a Mad Max Fury Road sequel. That would be insane.
Yeah,
Like I our prequel, but I yeah, it does nothing for me. Trailer did nothing for me to win me over. Didn't really love the look of it. I love everyone involved, but I mean, Anya Taylor-Joy, I'm sure will be good. Chris Hemsworth looks like Fat Thor in it again. um, I
he looks a
I
little like Gimli.
Yeah, that too. But I don't know. Yeah, it looks like more Mad Max. I don't, which a lot of people love, but not. This is one where I'd be like, hey, if I'm giving you Furiosa, even though no sane person is arguing Furiosa for Saw 11, but
Right.
I'm I don't even know if Saw 11 is going on the list, but I'm throwing it down there
I
now. If
think
you're
it
throwing it,
should. I think Saw 11 should go on the list just to keep up with the
oh,
tradition.
we should, yeah, yeah. So I'm throwing Saw 11 right after your Furiosa, and that will be
That
our
will
one
balance
for
out the
one,
two.
yeah, our one for one trade. Um, so we're at number 14 now. So we're getting there. So if is there another one that you want to throw out?
I'm just looking at like right now I'm like
I can
literally
throw out
going
other
through
things if you want.
letterbox
Like
lists. Yeah, yeah, please do.
I'm gonna throw out Twisters. I think I have to throw out Twisters. I think because Lee Isaac Chung is directing it, and um Minari I think is excellent. Twister is very nostalgic. Is my one of my wife's favorite movies. I think is an iconic 90s thriller. I think the cast is great with Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones and more. Um, I think also just because it might be him taking a paycheck, but I think following up Minari with this, I think is very
Well,
interesting
he
to
also
me.
did the episode of The
Um,
Mandalorian, which
yeah,
actually
and he
was
was
probably one of the better ones in season 3, right?
exactly. So I if he can bring some of that to Twister sequel, like I gotta throw it out there as a potential. Like maybe we get there and it doesn't end up on the list, but I'm gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, I think that's worth considering. I'm not the biggest fan of Twister. It's one of those movies I think it just for some reason or another I just never had the nostalgia for it. Even though I love Bill Paxton to death, I never understood and Philip Seymour Hoffman, like guys like that and Todd Field,
Hmm. Yeah,
the Tar Master himself,
yeah,
who should be directing this,
yeah. That'd be great.
Tarnado.
Yeah.
Um, but there is a part of me as well that just feels like it's kind of that 90s milieu that is now past in terms of like breakthrough special effects with
Oh,
the
that's why I have
twisters
no idea
themselves.
what to expect, but like I'm curious. It goes in that curious pile for me.
Yeah, because like Jan de Bont when he was making movies at that point because he started as a cinematographer working for people like Ridley Scott with Black Rain. um I think Speed is probably still that guy's best film, and like I totally get the obsession with that movie and like just like the rewatchability. But with Twister, I never got into it the way that a lot of people like you and Nevis did. And there was that period in the 90s where disaster movies were coming back again, like the 1970s, because you had Twister, you had, Volcano, Deep Impact, Armageddon, a lot of these movies that would come out around the same time as each other and would be competing films. So there is a curiosity, I guess, with technology and also having an indie filmmaker coming in and telling a story that maybe will have more than just a shallow focus on the characters. Because when you watch Twister, I mean, Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton's characters aren't really that well developed to begin with, so you're not really missing anything narratively with those characters. So it's mostly about the spectacle and how horrible Carrie Ellis and Zach Grenier get killed at the
Yeah,
end of
yeah,
that
yeah.
movie. So will there be that carnage? But then you think of as well, like the last kind of big Twister movie that Warner Brothers released through New Line was Into the Storm, and that movie was very much like a sea level film that
I
got a
think this is gonna be
theatrical
a
release.
bigger thing than that.
I
But
do too, but I do think it can go one of two ways where it depends on the technology, but also how the filmmaker uses it. And because Lee Isaac Chung, has worked a little bit in one sort of arena with the Mandalorian, but the
yeah,
Mandalorian was already set up and established, so you're
I think he'll
basically
bring an
entering a
emotional core to the
sandbox.
movie that I think will be unexpected. I
Yeah.
really do think that it'll be better than people expect it because of that. That's why I have a good. I don't know. It's an interesting year because I'll throw out other things as well. You have Barry Jenkins' Lion King movie coming out, right?
Yes.
Like
Which
I
also
I
could be a film that is delayed because you never know. Because like I
sure.
feel like the tech on that could still need like a little bit more time.
Um, but like any other, if it wasn't a Lion King movie, I think it would have been one of the first things we mentioned, right? Like a new Barry Jenkins movie. And he also he wrote Rachel Morrison's directorial debut that's supposed to be coming out next year, Flint Strong as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll throw out the two Barry Jenkins things. They don't, just as a talking point, or if we like the Disney stuff's interesting next year because like we don't have a ton of Marvel stuff. So like even then, I know you'll fight against it, but like Deadpool 3, right?
Yeah, I'm fighting against
Um,
that.
I'm throwing it on there now just because like out of any of the Marvel things, like that's the thing that I'd probably be most excited for. And the Mufasa thing I'll throw out because it's Barry Jenkins. Like I
Yeah.
think if it's anyone else, that clearly I don't think makes the list. But just because like, I enjoyed the Lion King remake for what it was at that time because it was early enough in the Disney remakes that um and the tech and things like that, like it was, even though it's a shot for shot remake essentially, but it was fine. Like I it hasn't stuck with me. I haven't rewatched it or anything like that, but I don't think if it's just journeyman or woman director like making that movie or someone that it's not Barry Jenkins, I don't even think it gets a talking point. But I think because of Barry Jenkins, I'm just throwing movies up there now that we can start to weed them out later, but
Yeah.
um
I think that's
especially
fair.
mainstream Matt.
Yeah, mainstream Matt and his basic bitch choices. Um, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment though of the Mufasa film because if it wasn't Barry Jenkins or if it was Jon Favreau coming back,
Yeah.
y- part of you would say, okay, well, I don't care. And it's like with Lee Isaac Chung, where there's a curiosity of a filmmaker who's known for independent cinema and character based dramas and movies sort of really about people. And so how does that translate into a big budget spectacle that is very much, you know, computer animation or CGI heavy or motion capture, whatever you want to call it. Especially when you look at the Lion King saying that it's live action when it's not.
No, yeah. It's an animated film, really.
Yeah, and so you know those elements could still overpower any aspect of the Barry Jenkins emotional core or human elements that are, you know, very much prominent in all of his other films. And so this could very much well be that paycheck movie that helps him get another Beale Street made or another Moonlight made. And it's like, you know, thanks for the check. But at the same time, he's at a point in his career and life that it's almost like you wouldn't want to waste, you know, these years making something that you could probably do, you know, 10, 20 years from now and
Yeah.
also, you know, make that bank and then, you know, go and do something else. But maybe your career is at a point where you're more comfortable with, you know, cashing in on something where, you know, Barry Jenkins right now is very much on a creative streak and a peak in terms of
Yeah,
his
so for
creative
him to choose
powers.
this, right? It kind of,
So it says something
yeah,
there.
I
Yeah, I
know it.
think.
Yeah, I agree. Even if it is a giant paycheck as well, which is great, good for him. But like you said, that can help him make his next movie after this and things like that. Um, if you have anything else, if not, I can kind of go through chronologically and just throw things out, and we can kind of go yay or nay. Like,
Yeah, and we can maybe
um,
even look at some of the independent distributors and see if they have stuff that's coming up as well and
that's
everything.
undated and stuff
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that, which I'd
obviously we
have
have
to.
to consider Clint Eastwood's Juror Number Two for one sole reason: Kiefer Sutherland's in it,
Oh, god damn it! No, it's not
and it's
happening.
his last
Sorry.
movie,
Yeah,
and it's his
Kiefer
last film.
Sutherland's last movie or
No, Clint
Eastwood?
Eastwood's
Yeah,
last
yeah.
movie.
He said it's his last movie. Okay.
Yeah,
I
that cock
I
movie's not going to be my last film.
yeah. I don't think I need to throw that on there. I
No,
know this
I'm
is
not
more
either. I just
serious.
wanted to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
considered because of Kiefer Sutherland
Um,
being in it.
I don't think anything in January is gonna make the cut. We got things like that. We got Night Swim,
How dare you? Night Swim has to be on there.
The Book of Clarence, Mean Girls, Beekeeper, Self Reliance.
What is self reliance?
I'm excited for it, even though like Jake Johnson as a director, I think it might be his directorial debut. I don't know, but
Oh, it's with Anna
Andy
Kendrick, right?
Anna
And
Kendrick and Andy Samberg, and it's
right.
produced by The Lonely Island, which is the only reason why I'm sort of excited for it. I wouldn't put it on this list, but it is something where I'm like, oh, okay, I do want to watch that. But it might not be good. Who knows?
Well, especially if it
Um,
is getting a January release.
oh yeah,
Usually
on
movies that get
Hulu,
released,
like
yeah,
yeah, like it's probably gonna be fine to watch on Hulu or Disney Plus here, but like I don't know. What else do we got? I'm just gonna throw out in chronological order. I don't know what Miller's Girl is. Oh, that's with Martin Freeman, Jenna Ortega. Sometimes I think about dying, which we've already seen. Everyone, you can go listen to
very
our
good.
review. It is very good. Argyle.
That trailer is not great.
I know. But like if it was another Kingsman movie, I would argue for it. I'm gonna throw it. It might get cut, but I'm throwing it because like I do like Matthew Vaughn.
You're throwing it.
Um,
You throw that
I
bad
like
boy.
Matthew Vaughn a lot. I
It's a good
think,
cast.
yeah, the cast is incredible. I think the vibe of the trailer didn't completely work for me, but the vibe of the movie might. So I'm gonna throw it on there. Might get cut. Um, Lisa Frankenstein, um, Zelda Williams directorial debut, um, Madam Web,
Yes, you're throwing that
uh,
right up there. Number one.
Bob Marley One Love, Drive Away Dolls.
To consider, it's nothing
I'm
against the
gonna be
film
honest, didn't
itself.
love the
Love the
trailer.
trailer. Yeah.
In
You
Cohen's split Cohen's, I don't know if I like as much as combined Cohen's.
yeah.
Um,
Cohen.
yeah, I don't like the Cohen as much as I like the Cohens.
Yeah.
Um, because I
I'm a
don't know.
plural man.
Yeah, I like brothers when they're together. I don't know.
That's what I search for online.
God damn
Brothers
it.
together.
I don't know. Like it doesn't. It does look like a Coen Brothers movie to an extent, but like it's giving me, uh Coen Brothers I don't like as much. You
It
know what I
almost looks
mean?
like a knockoff version of a Cohen's brother.
Yeah.
Cohen's brother movie.
And when you're missing 50% of a Coen brother, then like I don't know if it's really gonna work. I'll throw it on
Can
here,
you
but
accept Ethan without Joel, and can you accept Joel without Ethan?
yeah,
This is a world that I don't like living in, and it seems like everybody's doing that now.
I know
Because
everyone
Lana
is,
and
right?
Lily did that. The Safdie brothers seem to
Safdie
be
brothers are doing
broken
that,
up.
right? Yeah, like
Um,
they
yeah,
the Rock one of them's doing the Rock movie for
it's Benny.
A24,
Yeah,
right?
Benny's
Yeah,
doing all
Benny
the directing and producing now, and Josh seems to kind of be
kind of just
out of the
chilling.
picture. Yeah,
Interesting. Um so I threw it on there, but we're getting close to 24, so I don't know if it's gonna Kiefer Sutherland. Um,
juror
Dune
number
Part
two.
2. Are we gonna be spicy boys and not put it on the
I
list?
think we have
I
to. I think we have
I,
to commit to the bit because it disappointed us so much.
I know.
Why are we going to put something on that we were disappointed by, and that
I
so many other
agree.
people will put in their
Yeah,
24?
we can.
It
I
has to
agree.
earn its way back for Dune Messiah.
I agree. I will say the latest trailer I thought was quite good.
Well,
I
there's one reason for that.
Christopher
Walken.
Walken. Yeah, it's exactly it. You're not even wrong. Like I thought about this the other day. I'm like, man, it's so nice to see Christopher because I was thinking about Batman Returns, and then I was because it's Christmas.
Chip, my boy.
And then like, but seeing him in like a big fucking movie again, like I feel like we haven't
Yeah.
had that in a while,
In a
right?
good, like, menacing,
Yeah,
meaty role. I mean, it's a small part, but, like, seeing him kind of be really cruel instead of almost
yeah,
like the caricature of Christopher
exactly.
Walken.
So I will say, I'm looking forward to giving the complete movie a shot now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You're
Like,
looking forward
um,
to talking with Walken.
yeah, like I am excited to rewatch the first movie on 4K right before the second one comes out. I mean, or the first half of the movie, I should say,
Yeah.
on 4K right before I see the second half of the movie. in theaters. So I
Craig
agree.
goes to Paul. It's like, Paul, your father gave me a watch. A
Yeah,
watch.
shoved
Put
it
it
up
up
his
my
ass.
ass.
So I will say that I agree with you that I think we got to commit to us not enjoying Dune Part 1 and
Yeah.
not put Dune Part 2 on the list. I know that's
Sorry, Denny.
sorry.
We
And
love you, but
Denny's one of my favorite working filmmakers. So I
he's
hope
great and
he
always wonderful listening to him talk too.
um will we be kicking ourselves and it Dune Part 2 might rule and then make the whole
Will we
thing
lose our
awesome?
tastemaker status in
I know.
2025?
Spaceman teaser just came out today. I just want to give a shout out to Adam Sandler. Just,
Being
it's still at
serious?
Netflix, but going, you know what? This is serious Sandler.
Yeah.
So,
Kevin
um,
James is like, "Can I come too?" It's like, "Sorry,
yeah,
Kevin."
yeah, Johan Renck, from he did Chernobyl, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know if it makes this list, but I'll give it
But
a
definitely a
shout out.
curiosity.
Um, Kung Fu Panda 4, no. Damsel, no. Imaginary, Jeff Wadlow, get out of here. um,
We have Imaginary and If coming out, so
I know.
it's 2024 is the year of Imaginary
So
Friends.
Love Lies Bleeding, I think
It's
we
March
put
8th.
back onto this list for now,
Yes, I
right?
think we should because that trailer
Um,
rules.
it is very good. So,
Give me all
uh,
that Ed Harris with no hair.
yeah. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, even as the one person who defended on this podcast the last
That
movie,
trailer looks bad.
I don't know if I try to put that on this list. There's other block, like, I only want to put so many mainstream Matt movies on here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You got to have a good mix. And I don't think Ghostbusters Frozen Empire makes that cut. I'm sorry.
Matt's
Um,
mix of mainstream.
I can't in good faith put Ghostbusters Frozen Empire on there. So that's not making it, I don't think. The First Omen, Godzilla Kong New Empire, I will give a
Consider
special shout out and
for Dan
possibly
Stevens
consider because
and
it's
Adam
Adam Wing.
Wingard.
Exactly. You're on my wavelength. It's getting a consideration because of that alone. I love the guest that much
The
that
Guestzilla?
Guestzilla is being considered. Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Haven't seen Part 1 yet. So have you?
No, I have
No,
not.
yeah, I don't even know if I will. So that's not making it. We considered the Radio Silence Universal Monsters movie. We have Civil War. Challengers.
Yeah, Challengers
Guadagnino.
I would consider. I like the trailer, and I think it's one of those movies that could be more entertaining than it is maybe like Luca Guadagnino. I think is a really solid filmmaker, and everything he does is definitely worth checking out. But I get the feeling that he's having more fun with Challengers. It weirdly actually reminds me a little bit of like Shampoo and its sort of playfulness. Um, but I wouldn't be down to consider it. You know,
Yeah, that's where we're on there.
of the Zendaya movies that we can consider for
Sure.
2024.
Dune gets cut, but
Challengers makes the cut.
The Fall Guy, no.
That trailer also talk about a bad trailer. Like it tells you everything that's going
Yeah.
on, but it also exhausts you while you're watching it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, could be a fun watch with my wife or something like that, but like, I don't know. What do we got now? Back to Black. Don't know what the fuck that is. Oh, Sam Taylor Johnson.
That's the Amy
Horoscope.
Winehouse
Oh,
biopic.
oh, right. I never. No offense to
No,
Amy Winehouse, but doesn't.
the documentary is a lot better.
Yeah.
Amy.
If not making the cut, I'll guarantee that.
You don't want to see the
That
grimace knockoff voiced by Steve
that
Carell.
trailer, dude.
It's
It
bad.
was like, and I get it's a kids movie. I get it. There's a lot of kids movies that got bad reviews when we were younger that I loved as a kid, and I still love as an adult, and I never understood why they got bad reviews. But like,
But a movie
I
about imagination, the trailer has no imagination.
yeah, the character design looks uninspired. Like it looks really cheap looking with the mix of CG and live action.
It's
And
awful.
I thought it was a very, very bad trailer. And maybe it's for super young kids, but like, um, even the annoying behind the scenes thing that they put out right away too, of like Ryan Reynolds being
Who's
like,
voicing
we
what
were
characters?
yeah, and then Ryan Reynolds is like, it's like John really wanted to make a live action Pixar movie. It's like, just fucking watch a Pixar movie. I don't need
Yeah.
a live action.
Or just
It's
get
like,
Jeff Wadlow to make this movie.
God. So, anyways, If's not making the list. Furiosa is in contention right now. Garfield not making the list. Sorry. Kingdom of the
Not this
Planet of
year's
the
Super
Apes.
Mario Brothers movie.
No, sorry. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in contention. Ballerina. I mean, you had John Wick on
John Wick 4.
yeah, on your top of the year, and
It's
I didn't
great.
love it. Which is, I didn't love it as much as you did, which is baffling to me because I'm the guy usually who likes the John Wick
You
movies.
love trash.
And it's the one that I don't like as much as you, which is, it's so funny how that works that way. Like
Yeah.
I liked chapter 4. It didn't, I thought it was too long, and I don't know, it overstayed its welcome. It has some really good shit in it, but
I think some great cinematography in the
yeah,
film,
totally. I
and
don't disagree with any of that, but it just didn't hit me like it did other people. That might have been when I saw it, the hype levels, all that kind of stuff. But it's definitely epic, and I love that franchise for elevating each movie and like trying to outdo the last one. So like, I did appreciate it. Ballerina, I don't have like, especially with
well,
Len
it's also
Wiseman
Len Wise.
directing. Yeah. Like it's not, I'm just talking about it because it's in the same John Wick universe, right? And that John Wick TV show with Mel Gibson and shit didn't do anything either.
Yeah, the
But
Continental.
yeah, so
Yeah. Well, Len
we have,
Wiseman's enough to put to take that off the list, because talk about one of the most bland
oh
directors ever.
yeah. We have 2 Shyamalan movies this year. We have Aishana Shyamalan's debut, and we have M. Night doing uh, another film. So,
Yeah,
do any Shyamalan
no
movies?
nepotism there.
I don't think either makes the list, if I'm
No.
being honest.
I
But
still want to see them, because
yeah,
I still like, even Knock at the Cabin I did not care for.
yeah.
But I'm still like, oh, this could, like, this next one with Josh Hartnett could be the one.
Oh yeah, we talk about it nonstop that I'm always cheering for that guy. And if hopefully his daughter's a great director too. Who knows?
Yeah, no nepotism here.
No, never. No, 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 no. Inside Out 2, we got to throw it on for a contention. The first Inside Out is fantastic. I
Yeah.
thought them covering puberty and anxiety and stuff like that is a really perfect and clever way to continue that. So I think we usually at least have one Pixar movie, one Marvel movie on these lists, and I
Yeah.
think Inside Out 2 is the one that will both be.
It's
I
got to
think,
be
is it the
better than
only one?
Elemental. Yeah,
Is
because Elio, I think, got
got
moved to
pushed, right?
2025.
Yeah.
Elio.
Bad Boys 4. I'm excited for it. I'm not gonna put it on this list,
Yeah.
but
Is
I don't
Will
even
Smith
know if it
slapping
comes out,
someone?
right? Like I doubt that makes a June release date. Have
No,
they even
no, no.
shot that?
I
No.
don't. No, I don't think they've
Um,
even started. But that'll probably be 2025, and they'd probably want to release that actually, like, at the beginning of next year, because of how well that first movie did. Like, obviously, it was right before the pandemic closed everything down, but it did extremely
yeah.
well in
So they'll
January.
probably do January 2025
Yeah.
if they start shooting soon, because there's no way it comes out um
God, it's like
in
we're
June.
gonna we're gonna we're gonna change the marquee. It's Martin Lawrence and Will Smith now, not
Yeah,
Will
yeah.
Smith and Martin Lawrence.
I think like I'm a huge fan of these movies. I don't know if it makes this list, but A Quiet Place Day 1 is coming out. Um
And it is
which
from the director of Pig, so
which is cool.
yeah,
I'm throwing it on there as a potential. A
yeah,
Quiet Place Part 1. I forgot he was the one directing it, and the
yeah.
cast is really good too. So you have Lupita Nyong'o, Alex Wolff, Jaimin Hansu. Joseph Quinn's getting cast in a lot of stuff because of Stranger
Oh God,
Things. They
is he
keep
going to be
saying
the
he's
new Timothy Chalamet, or you
he
know,
keeps
Chris
getting
Pratt.
cast and stuff, right? And it's a rumor that he's playing Human Torch and Fantastic Four as well. But
Human
like,
Torch. I like the way you
um,
said that. Human Torch.
Human Torch.
Human
Uh,
Torch.
I can't put in good faith put the Kevin Costner movie on here. Like I
Either
can't.
one.
Yeah, part one
It
or
would be
part two.
funny if you
Well,
did.
only part two, not part one. Uh, looking forward to the second one, but not the first one.
Yeah. I hear the second one's like Dune 2. It picks up there.
Uh, it just doesn't really seem like it's something I'm.
It's the ultimate dad movie. If
Yeah,
it's like, okay, have you watched Yellowstone like at
yeah.
nauseum? Do you want to now watch something else with Kevin Costner?
Do you need 6 hours of whatever the fuck this is gonna be? So,
Yeah, this is Kevin
um,
Costner's Avatar.
So we're getting chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Horizon, an American Saga. Neither one making our list, okay? Despicable Me 4. Didn't even see the third one. Can't do Minions. No, thank you. We Twisters is in contention. Deadpool 3 is in contention. Borderlands not gonna make the list. I can't. Eli
No, it's
Roth
had
video
some
game
rumors
movie.
of
Yeah.
reshoots and troubled post production. So
Yeah, so I no. The remake of Speak No Evil,
with James McAvoy,
yeah, with James McAvoy.
the Mac
Um,
Daddy. I don't know. I'm
yeah,
always skeptical of English language
remakes, yeah.
remakes.
Flint Strong is that Rachel Morrison, Barry Jenkins movie. Barry Jenkins writing, Rachel Morrison. I think it's her directorial debut, right?
Yeah.
Um, uh,
And that got
cinematographer
delayed because
for
of COVID
yeah,
originally, and then also Ice Cube was supposed to be a co-lead, but then dropped out because of COVID, because
yeah,
he is an anti-vaxxer, and so
right.
Brian Tyree Henry came in to play that part. So I think it's one to consider because of the Barry Jenkins thing as well,
Yeah,
of Rachel Morrison directing her first film as a director and having such a prestigious career as a cinematographer. So that's something definitely to consider.
yeah. Alien Romulus, I think, has to be considered. I
Oh
like
yeah,
Fede
Alvarez.
Alvarez quite a bit. I like the cast with Kaylee Spaney and well, she's I guess the lead. I don't know who else is in it, but
Well, we're getting a
I
lot of alien stuff now again because we have that, and then Noah Hawley is
doing
gearing
the
up
FX
production
show,
on the
right?
FX series. So
Yeah, so having Alvarez do a movie and Noah Hawley doing a show, I think is cool. And this movie taking place in between Alien and Aliens.
yeah, Ridley
So
Scott loves it apparently, which I don't
I
know
don't know
if
if
really
that's
says
like
anything,
that.
but
Yeah, I don't
but it's
I don't
funny when
know.
Ridley
But
Scott loves something because he usually loves his own stuff. So
yeah, exactly. So that who knows what the fuck that means. Craven the Hunter not making the list.
yes, it's making the list. I am the
Beetlejuice
Rhino.
Beetlejuice 2, I
No,
not making the
I love
list.
Keaton to death, but come on.
Yeah, I'm not even a huge Beetlejuice fan, so I can't
Ooh.
even say I'm getting juiced up for the second one.
I love Beetlejuice, but I
Yeah,
think it's a one and done thing. Like
yeah,
it's
I agree.
and it's of the time. It's like Ghostbusters where it was a perfect time for it, and that window of opportunity for a sequel has passed because there was a time where they were trying to make a sequel where Beetlejuice goes to Hawaii, and Kevin Smith has talked about doing rewrites on the script for his stand-ups and specials and things like that. And there was the actual animated TV show as well. So part of me is like, oh yeah, I guess like it'd be cool to see Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice again, but then it's that monkey paw thing of, well, the same thing with Batman, and then look what we got. We got the Flash. So, careful what you wish for.
Um, I will throw out Transformers 1.
Was that the
Um,
animated movie?
yeah, from Josh Cooley, who is the writer of the first Inside Out. He also directed Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
Um, good cast with Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan Michael Key, John Hamm, Lawrence Fishburne. Um, fully animated, but it is being animated by Industrial Light and Magic. So I think the animation style is going to be more like what the Bay Transformers movies, or at least not maybe in the Bay ones, but Bumblebee and Beast Wars.
Oh, you think it's gonna
Um,
be CGI then? Like, you don't think it's going to
yeah,
be
like I
like
don't think it's
the
gonna be like Spider Verse.
Spider-Verse?
No, I don't think so. Because like from what I'm reading here, it's Industrial Light and Magic is returning to provide the animation for the film following the franchise's first 6 installments. So it means like it might be CG animated, and the CG, like like the Cybertron sequence at the
Yeah.
beginning of is it Bumblebee or Beasties or whatever,
Well,
Beast Wars?
Beasties has, like, an opening prologue
Yeah,
in their credit sequence,
right.
and then I think it was Bumblebee that has but there's a lot of them have, like, the opening of Cybertron and the
Yeah, so I
battles
think it'll be
between
kinda looking
everybody.
like that, which is making me go, okay." Like, I don't know, but, if it was more like Ninja Turtles or Spider-Verse, which we kinda thought it might be, then I'd be maybe more interested, but,
Yeah.
um, okay, Saw 11, um, Joker: Folie à Deux,
Part of me is like, "Nah, I don't."
no, I don't think I like the first movie. I think, very divisive, but like I do like the first movie. It's been a while since I've rewatched it, and I will rewatch it before this one, but I don't know if it holds up or if it feels even ickier now and stuff, but um I can't put it on here. I can't say that I'm like needed a sequel to that, and
No.
I'm fine with it being a musical and stuff like that. And I am it goes in the curiosity pile, but I don't know if I'm like eagerly anticipating it.
No. It's no
Um,
Juror number 2.
yeah. Um, Whitebird, Smile 2, Terrifier 3, Lee Wanell's Wolfman. Do you think that comes out?
Yeah, it's already been announced. They released a
Yeah.
press release because it was going to be, um, Ryan Gosling and Derek Cinefonte, and
Yeah.
I think partly because Gosling's working on other projects right now, like the Project Hail Mary, and also, um, I think Derek Cinefonte needed time because they when they announced the thing that was most surprising about that press release is that it's coming out this year.
That's what I mean. So like
Well,
that seems
Blumhouse Productions are quick shoots,
are quick, yeah.
and I think even like Invisible Man wasn't really that.
Which is great. So
Yes, and
we have a
Christopher
lot of
Abbott
Universal
as the
monster
lead.
content on here already. We might need to not put all four,
Yeah,
like, or whatever.
Christopher Abbott
Um,
though is the lead. It could kind of be a quasi sequel to Poor
oh,
Things.
dude, I love Christopher Abbott, and I like Lee Wanell a lot, obviously. So I'm here to consider it, but Venom 3 we're not going to consider. Um, Barry Levinson, Alto Knights, no thank you. Wicked Part 1. I mean, I'll see it, and I like musicals. I know the
The
musical people
wickedly
really love it.
talented Adele
Yeah.
Dazeem.
Uh, I, I'm definitely interested in seeing it. I don't think John M. Chu as a director doesn't do much for me, and I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I can't say that I'm like super pumped for it.
Yeah, and it
The
feels like it's been in production for a while too.
Yeah, for sure. Um, the Lord of the Rings animated film, The War of the Rohirrim.
The Rohrbeck.
Um, yeah. Uh, I don't give a shit about this. I don't know about do you?
Not really. I guess I'd be curious to see what the animation style is, just because
Yeah.
of the Ralph Bakshi version of from I think it was like the late 70s, early 80s, and that being an incomplete film. But also, it's just like I love those three Lord of the Rings films that Peter Jackson did. I think we're over it now. I don't think we need to continue to go
Uh-huh.
back to that well. And like with the Amazon series, with the Hobbit films,
Yeah.
you begin to question, okay, who is this for? And is there still an audience large enough to sustain this as a franchise? Because it was never meant to be a franchise. It's
I-
3 books and like a short story for
Yeah.
children, and that's it.
I
You know,
will say that it's going to be hand drawn style. So I am into that. I
right.
will I will say that. So I'm curious because of that. I didn't see. It's like an anime style. So
That
this
might be something.
the studio that's doing it, what have they done recently? Oh, they did that Blade Runner Black Lotus anime, which I haven't watched, but I did want to. Um, but some of the anime they do, Evangelion, they did some more recent Ghost in the Shell CG stuff.
Oh, so they're
They
really going with
they
anime then. That could be
yeah.
interesting.
Um they did some Shin Godzilla VR stuff. They did uh Starship Troopers animes. I didn't know that that existed and was a thing. Um what else have they done? Something called Tower of God in 2020. So yeah, they're going with kind of like an anime style, which is cool, but I can't say that I would want to put it on this list. Okay, the Untitled Karate Kid film. You know,
Okay, yes.
I it has to be in consideration, but is that gonna come out? Like they
And
haven't even
how does this
cast the kid.
fit? How does
Yeah.
this fit into the story? Because Cobra Kai is supposed to be at the end. It's coming to its final season.
Yeah, and they haven't started shooting that yet either,
And if
have they?
Zapka's not in this, I don't know. I don't know.
I
I
don't
need
think he
Zapka.
is.
I need Zapka.
Because I'm assuming it's gonna. I don't know. Like I'm throwing it on there now, but I don't know enough about this to be excited for it yet. You know what I mean? And they haven't even
Yeah.
cast the kid yet. Is it really gonna come out?
Yeah, I
Um.
don't think it'll be until probably next year.
And then
No Zapka,
finally,
no list.
yeah. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, no. So I enjoy those movies, but yeah. Okay, so which studios do you want me to look up or so
Okay, I'm
that's
looking at a
everything with a
couple things
release
here
cuz
that
that's everything with a release date and we're at 29 films and that's not including
what we had
um
left over.
well I did put Bike Riders. I put a bunch of them on,
Yeah.
but yes, anyways.
Okay, I'm going to be a little bit of a
I'm going
tastemaker
to listen
here.
to you while I'm going pee.
Okay. So I'm going to be a tastemaker here. So I've been listening to Matt, but I just wanted to make sure that I double checked a couple of things here because there's no um release dates and a lot of these movies are in post production, but they are finished or in the process of being finished. So um one film for me that I want to consider, this is a personal thing, but um I think it'll probably play can if it starts this year or if it kind of picks up steam, is David Cronenberg's The Shrouds, which is supposed to be his most personal story. Basically, Vincent Cassell plays a man who invents this device that can contact loved ones from beyond the grave. And if you know David Cronenberg's work, he's very much an atheist. And so him telling this story with Vincent Cassell, Guy Pearce, and Diane Kruger um, is very much a fascinating point in terms of the spiritual aspect of what maybe Cronenberg's bringing to it, or also just his own grief and despair, having just recently sadly lost his own wife. So I think this could be something that's really fascinating, and I loved Crimes of the Future, and I'm a big Cronenberg fan. The movie shot in Etobicoke, so that is one I think I have to fight for in terms of it being on the
Sorry, taking a
list.
Dorito break.
Dorito Dan. Um, yeah, so
Well, the Shrouds?
the Shrouds, yes. You can even look it up and just read the synopsis if you want to, but I think I kind of explained it. There's other stuff on. I'm just looking on a couple of these like letterbox lists. There's Paul Schrader's "Oh Canada" with Richard Gere that reteams the two of them from American Gigolo. You have, let's see here. There was something else that kind of caught my eye. Uh, oh shoot, where was it? Trey Edward Schultz has an untitled A24 movie with The Weeknd and Jenna Ortega. That's the director of Waves and It Comes at Night. Um, you have Let's see here. Brady Corbett's follow-up, The Brutalist, which is finished shooting. So that will probably be a fall festival film if it starts its way. Luca Guadagnino has another
For
movie.
audio listeners, I made a face because
Yes.
I like Vox Lux a lot.
Yes. Uh, Luca Guadagnino has Queer, which is with Daniel Craig. That also could be a possible year-end film. I think that finished shooting before the strike. This is another one where it's like, okay, it could be this year, it could be 20 years from now. Francis Ford Coppola's last movie, supposedly as well, Megalopolis with Adam Driver. That could be something of a curiosity, but also a fascination. And knowing Coppola spent, a lot of personal finances on the project, that's something to definitely take into consideration. There's another movie here that I want you to look up, Matt, right now.
Yeah.
This was another project that Ryan Gosling was going to be the star of, but had to drop out due to scheduling. And it's a live action movie that's from the co-director of Anomalisa, Duke Johnson, that Neon has, called The Actor. And I just want you to read the synopsis for that because it does sound very interesting.
The Actor film. Upcoming film, Duke Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I got here? The film marks Johnson's solo directorial debut and stars Andre Holland as Paul Cole, a New York actor who lost his memory after being beaten up and left for dead in 1950s Ohio. Stranded in a mysterious small town, Paul struggles to get back home and reclaim his life and identity. Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So, and just thinking about like an animator who specializes in stop motion animation directing a live action film like this, um, is something to definitely consider.
Yep. Anything else?
Those are pretty much it. Those are the films that I would definitely consider. Just gonna do one last double check.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Gareth Evans has Havoc,
Okay.
which I don't really know much about. Robert Zemeckis is back with Here.
No.
Yeah, exactly. I don't disagree with you. Pablo Larraín has his third film in his sort of unofficial trilogy, Maria with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Joshua Oppenheimer has The End, which is a film about three people in a bunker that's actually a musical as well.
Okay.
Have you read the synopsis for that? Read the
No,
synopsis for
no.
that. It's really good.
Are we getting Zach Kreger's weapons or no?
That's the other one, right? Because I think that was pretty much like good to go last year, and that was, I think, supposed to shoot in the summer or fall.
Like that's the thing. Like, do we take risks and put things like that on there?
I don't think we can with something that's a bit bigger. Like if it was something smaller, I would say yeah, because they have maybe more wiggle room to shoot it and get it done. But if it's a bigger production with, you know, more special effects and cast and things like
Are
that.
we getting Dean Fleischer Camp's Lilo and Stitch?
I think so, but I think that's also going just to Disney Plus.
Yeah, I'm not putting it on the list. Don't get me wrong. But and sorry, what was the other movie you wanted?
The End. Type in The End. It's Joshua Oppenheimer's movie. It's the documentary director of The Look of Silence and The Act of Killing.
The End. A wealthy family lives in an underground bunker 2 decades after the end of the world, which they directly contributed to.
It's also a musical.
Up my alley. You know that's up my fucking alley. Come on.
Yeah, and it's a musical.
Oh God, we got too many movies on this list.
I thought we wouldn't. I thought we would be struggling. We're already at the
2-hour mark. We said we were going to try to be more structured.
We have failed. But it's a New Year's episode, so
yeah,
I think
this is a big one. Obviously.
Yeah, you got to be beefy on episode 1 of a New Year episode.
Did we need to spend 45 minutes looking at last year's list? Whatever. Oh my God. Okay, that's a 2024 film.
I think that's good. And I think there's, we should also say that there's a lot of stuff that we are not anticipating because there are movies that just aren't on the radar yet, and this always happens as well, right? Like, you look at something like, even though it wasn't on our list, and I don't think it'd be necessarily on like our best of, but something that's strong in terms of the performances and the direction and even the writing. Anatomy of a Fall was a film that no one really
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff
talked
that
about.
probably made our list that we didn't have on our most anticipated, right? Like
Yeah.
our individual lists of things as well. Joe Talbot has a movie called The
That
Governesses.
that hasn't even gone into production yet.
Yeah,
That's
that's
been
what I
in.
mean. Like some of these are hard to say because of that reason, right? Like
Yeah.
um I'm going through just seeing if there's like a couple more. I don't even think did this shoot yet, but I really like the book, but I don't love the Russo brothers.
All right.
So Electric State as well. I
I
don't
think
think I
that
can put
shot.
after after the last two Russo brother things.
Well,
I
especially
can't
because
put
they're
a
not associated with the MCU, right? Like, that's like
yeah
Cherry and the Gray Man.
yeah
Um, not those guys will not be remembered like Martin Scorsese. Sorry, what's his name? Joe Russo, you garbage man,
yeah.
you.
Yeah, I can't like I really do like some of the cast with, Brian Cox and Ki Hui Kwan and um you got a ton of people in this movie and I really do like the art book that it's based off of, but
This
I
is
don't
one
know.
that's like almost like a wait and see, not a I'm putting this on a prediction list.
Yeah.
Because also you've been
Um
burned hard by the Russo brothers outside of the MCU. You just got to go back and think about Cherry and be like, this isn't going on the list.
Andy Serkis's Animal Farm.
He's been wanting to make that for a while.
Yeah. I'm looking if there's anything else that we missed that we might want to consider. Um, Kinds of Kindness. Yorgos has another movie.
Yeah, that's the film Anne that he made, where it's like
Right.
it's an anthology film, but with the same cast in each story.
And
So you have
that is
people like,
coming out.
yeah, so that's Searchlight picked it up.
So is it called And or did they change the
They
name to Kinds
changed
of
it.
Kindness? Okay.
Yeah,
Um, I
the
think that
corporate
has to be
synergy was like, we need to change this
that
this
has to be
title.
in contention. Holy crap, we have too many movies. I always thought I'm like, oh, next year's gonna be quiet. It's like when you start looking at things, you're like, God damn it, there is a lot of stuff. So, which is a good problem to have, but
Mhm.
um, okay, I think unless we're missing something,
I mean, Andrea
like
Arnold's movie kind of interests me, and so does Wizards with an exclamation mark. If you type in Wizard first, because it has Pete Davidson and Franz Rogowski, and it's from David Michaud, who did Animal Kingdom
yeah,
and War Machine. But it does sound funny.
wizards with an S or
I think so, and it has an exclamation mark.
yeah, okay, I see that now. The problems of two unlucky beach bar operators starts when they find stolen loot that really they should have left alone. Yeah, that could be fun too. I don't know if it makes this. So,
Yeah,
all right, we got to start weeding this down. We have 42 movies that we need to cut
Jesus.
down to 24. So, I'm going to go through all 42 really quickly and then we can just go off the top of our heads like we can argue for something being cut. So,
Yeah,
Mickey 17, Blitz, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Honora, Untitled Jordan Peele movie,
I think the
Nos
Untitled Jordan Peele movie, we really do like. It will be bad if we don't include it, but I don't think it's even
going to
in
come out.
production. Like,
I
yeah,
know.
especially with that
Okay.
Nosferatu
Yeah.
date.
I know. Well, let's keep going. Nosferatu, Untitled Universal Monster movie. I think we can probably cut that, the Radio
Yeah,
Silence one. Like, I don't think that's gonna make
if
it.
it was Dracula's daddy,
Um,
that would be different.
Mother Mary, Civil War, Maxine. Do you think Maxine's gonna make the 24?
No, not
I don't.
now. Since we have more than enough, Maxine was almost more like a okay. Let's in
Honorable
case.
mention.
Yeah,
Honorable mention. Gladiator 2 staying on for now. Furiosa staying on. Saw 11 staying on. Twisters, yeah, let's keep going. Mufasa, let's keep going. Deadpool 3, I might argue for a veto because of I can't, as mainstream Matt, as Marvel Matt, I have to have a Marvel movie on here,
Oh
and there's only
God.
2 of them. I think, or they might be the only theatrical one, isn't it? Or
Well,
like,
it is the only theatrical one this coming
yeah.
year, right?
And I know you hate them. I do like them, and I think I'm curious. Anyways,
It will
we'll
be a
get.
big film though as well, I think. Like because it
So
is
I'm gonna
Deadpool coming
argue
into the
for it for
MCU.
now, but let's keep going.
Right.
Argyle,
Cut that shit.
yeah, sorry. Drive Away Dolls. I
Cut
don't
it.
think neither of us are super passionate about it. Love Lies Bleeding. Keep it for now.
Yep.
Godzilla Kong. Keep it
I
for
think you can.
now.
Oh, I was gonna say. I think maybe
Just
that
cut
is
it.
one you can
I
kind of
know.
cut.
I'm putting it in the bottom pile right now. Okay. There's 2 different ways we're cutting things. One goes into a pile that might come back, and one goes away forever. Well, it goes away until it comes out. But I mean, hey, honorable mention to anything that we threw on this list. Mufasa the Lion King.
I don't know.
Keep it for
It's
now.
hard because it's Jenkins, but that's it. That's all it is. That like
Okay.
it's not even necessarily even the story because maybe the
Okay.
story does prove
It's
that it.
going in the bottom list.
Yeah.
Like you're on the bench, you
The
might get
second
called
tier.
up. Yeah. We sent you down to the minors, but you might get called back up. Love Lies Bleeding. Challengers.
I think that's one we could put in the minors.
Yeah. Inside Out 2, I would argue to try to have a Pixar movie on here. So let's keep going. Bike Riders. Will it make
I
the
think we
cut
can
this
put
year?
that. I
In
think
the
maybe we have to
minors?
cut it.
Now that we've seen the trailer too.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the minors because it did make our list last year, but I don't think it's making it, to be honest.
Yeah.
A Quiet Place Part 1 might be in the minors. I don't know,
Minors.
but I do like that director. I am
Same.
excited for it. But it might be in the minors. Flint Strong.
I think that also might be in the minors just because
the unknown of Rachel
yeah.
Morrison as a director and stuff. But sometimes I do like us championing like someone or a movie or something like that. But we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Alien Romulus. I really do like Fede Alvarez. I love the Alien franchise. But
it also feels like it's one.
now,
Yeah, it's one for now. But like at the same time, it's one that like I don't necessarily feel like it could be the most anticipated as it is like, oh, that was better than expected.
Yeah. Transformers 1, I think is
especially
gone.
knowing that it's not
like a interesting animation style. Like it might just be CG.
Like I'm now more interested in Lord of the Rings
because it's anime, like hand drawn. Yeah. Wolfman.
I think that's a cut just because nothing against Lee Wan-el and Christopher Abbott, but Ryan Gosling and Derek Cinephronce were a more interesting combo.
Yeah.
And it just feels like, oh, like that's not going to be the film we get.
The Karate Kid, probably the
I think cut.
Yeah.
Karate chopped.
We're getting closer to 24. The Shrouds.
I gotta fight for the Shrouds. If you're fighting for Deadpool,
no,
I'm fighting for the Shrouds.
I'm fine with that. You know, Cronenberg. As much as I didn't care for, what am I thinking of? Did I even see it?
You didn't see Crimes of the Future.
No, I didn't. Yeah, that's right.
So you can't not care about it because you didn't see it.
Well, obviously, I didn't care enough to go see it. Oh, Canada. I think for now, keep it, but
gotta get those hot takes from Paul Schrader.
I think because it's Schrader and it's called Oh Canada, that it might be.
Well, it takes place in Montreal too,
yeah,
and it's Richard Gere and him reteaming, and they haven't worked together since American Gigolo. So
let's leave it for now. We only have to cut 5 more.
It'd be great if that movie didn't play at TIFF. Oh Canada, but it played everywhere else.
I know, of course, that might happen. Untitled Trey Edward Schultz movie, I will argue for. I love Trey Edward Schultz.
There's 3 people in it. So Barry Keoghan, Jenna Ortega, and The Weeknd.
Great. The Brutalist, I'm all for keeping that if you are.
Yeah, I am too.
Queer, you said was Who? Sorry.
Luca Guadagnino with
Okay.
Daniel Craig and Francis McDormand.
Are we putting one Guadagnino or no Guadagnino on the list? Is
I think we
basically
should put
what.
this in the minors for now, but then maybe bring it back in case, because I also feel
Yeah.
that they're going to push Daniel Craig for Best Actor for that year, for next year.
Yeah. Megalopolis.
I think that needs to. Part of me is
Yeah.
like I like whenever it gets announced for a date when it
Yeah.
gets released, like it does need to. It could be
'Cause
horrible, like
it's
Coppola's movies,
and there's a good chance that it will be that one that is really bad. But
but there's also a fascination because it is Francis Ford Coppola.
okay, let's leave it for now. Handling the Undead, does it stay?
I really like that trailer,
Okay,
but I also
cool.
know
I
kind
gotta
of
watch the
what it's
trailer,
going
but
to be.
I'm okay with leaving it for now. I
Let's leave
saw
it
the
for now.
TV glow. Does it stay?
I think that should stay because
Okay.
Fred Durst, baby.
Yeah. The actor. I'm with you. I thought the premise was really cool,
Yeah.
so I'm down. Havoc.
I don't know
Which
anything
one?
about it, which is
Havoc.
Gareth
What is Havoc?
Evans.
Oh yeah.
The guy did the Raid movies.
Which like
We'll look up the plot. Let's see the
yeah, I
synopsis
got it.
before we cut
After a
it.
drug deal gone wrong, a bruised detective must fight his way through a criminal underworld to rescue a politician's estranged son while unraveling a deep web of corruption and conspiracy that ensnares his entire city. Sounds
Is it
pretty
Tom Hardy?
generic. Yeah, Tom Hardy.
Oh, what accent is he going to have for
Yeah.
that one?
Oh, he's gonna have something. I'm sure it'll be cool. I'm sure it'll
Fun.
be awesome. Like I'm sure it's more along the lines of the Raid, right? Because I
Yeah.
know he did Apostle, which people didn't really give a shit about, right?
With
And
Dan
then
Stevens.
yeah, no one really even saw it. So it
Well, because
seems like
Netflix buried it.
it seems like he's going back to his, you know, with the Raid, like what people
His
really,
action roots.
yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, I
We
think
do
that
have
one we can cut. I mean, if it
Yeah.
was best accents or most anticipated accents, it'd probably be number one.
bike riders in that any Tom Hardy movie. What's he gonna do?
Venom 3,
Yeah.
all the accents.
Most anticipated Tom Hardy movies of 2024. Weapons. Do we think it's even gonna come out?
I don't think so. I unless they were shooting it secretly before the pandemic, which I don't think that's the case. I think this is a film now that's going to get bumped to 2025.
I think I agree with you.
It's like the Jordan Peele thing, where like if it wasn't for the strikes, then we would also probably have the Paul Thomas Anderson film. We would probably have the Quentin Tarantino movie. There would be a bunch of other stuff that
that
would be
probably coming
considered
this year, right? Yeah.
but they won't probably start until sometime this year, and a lot of those movies probably won't end up shooting until the spring, the summer, the fall of 2024.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I have yeah, I have a feeling it won't come out this year. So we could probably make a safe bet of that being on next year's list.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely excited for it, but
So am I, but it's also just you have to. Yeah, right now, just with everything going on, you have to kind of consider like what is actually finished, or like with Gladiator 2, it's almost done.
Yeah.
You know,
the end. I loved that description and who's directing.
I'm down.
And stuff like
Joshua
that.
Oppenheimer, who did the
Yeah.
act of killing and The Look of Silence.
And then Kinds of Kindness. Yorgos. I think I'm down.
After
how much
Poor Things.
Yeah, like, and we've loved everything he's done for the last little while. So
yeah, but it could be his French Dispatch, right?
Yeah.
Because it's anthology.
That's true. So we're at 26. So we
Okay.
actually only need to cut 2 films if we keep this list exactly how it is, or we can swap out something we took out for something we kept in. So I will go through the list one more time, and we got to pick 2 movies, or we need to trade out for what we have in the reserves. So we have Mickey 17, Blitz, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Anora, Jordan Peele, Nosferatu, Mother Mary, Civil War, Gladiator, Furiosa, Saw 11, Twisters, Deadpool 3, Love Lies Bleeding, Inside Out 2, Alien Romulus, The Shrouds, O Canada, Untitled Trey Edward Schultz movie, The Brutalist, Megalopolis, Handling the Undead, I Saw the TV Glow, The Actor, The End, and Kinds of Kindness. So there's 2 movies there that we can get rid of, or we can start trading some things out. Are you not
Yeah,
passionate about something on here, or?
well, it's not that I'm not passionate about it. It's more so looking at it from the perspective of you could play it really safe in that, okay, well, we don't know for sure now if the Jordan Peele movie's coming
I
out.
think you gotta put it on because I don't know. I just have this weird.
You just
feeling
want to
that,
leave
like,
it just in case.
just
But then
because,
the
like,
Coppola movie too, right? Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
Coppola film, I think
But that's
will
done shooting though, right?
yes. But who knows how
So
long the
the
effects
post
are?
production, yeah, and the
Yeah, because
effects,
he
yeah.
makes the rules on that one. But I also think that should be on there if it does come out this year. You know,
So I
because
think
it's
you keep both of those.
yeah.
So what I'm looking at things here and what could go. What could go? Alien Romulus, I guess I could be fine dropping out, but I
I
want
could
to have a
too.
good I want to have a good mix of mainstream Matt and esoteric Eric. And, like, and we meet in the middle because, we both have eclectic tastes, I think,
Yeah.
and we both like the weird, the good, the bad, and the ugly, um, or the good, the bad, and the weird. Um, so I'm trying to think. I'd probably be okay with Romulus going. I'd probably be okay with the Paul Schrader movie
I
going,
think
but
both of those movies, like I really liked. No, no, loved. I loved First Reformed,
oh yeah,
and I
same.
liked both The Card Counter and Master Gardener. I don't
Where Card
love
Counter
them,
didn't do much for
so I
me.
think it is diminishing returns a little bit in terms of. But I think he's still really good at doing that movie, and the Richard Gere thing still
Intrigues you, yeah.
intrigues me because American Gigolo is one of his best films. So with that and thinking about the cast, like part of me is like, I do kind of want to keep it there, but then there's another part of me. It's like, I kind of know what this movie's going to be. But I'm also
Mhm.
excited to see, like, because I'm not the biggest Richard Gere fan, but he's really good in American Gigolo because Paul Schrader casts him as a sociopathic scumbag. And
Mhm.
Gere, I think, is better as
A scumbag.
a scumbag. No, I honestly think that than he is a romantic lead, and Pretty Woman kind of changed his course a little bit, and An Officer and a Gentleman a little bit as well. But he was just so good at playing low lives that when like Arbitrage came out, it kind of reminded you a little bit of, yeah, like he can play someone who's a little bit seedy and really good at this. Plus like his beady eyes kind of like help with that kind of stuff. But Oh Canada does feel like, oh, this could be his comeback film in a way or something like that, because he's
Yeah.
doing a lot of VOD movies right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, a
there's that.
Schrader movie can also be a VOD movie. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I think we're past the canyons, thankfully.
yeah.
But I do agree with that as well, where it could ultimately end up being bad.
Yeah.
Um,
So that means we do have a 24, but then we have 14 that we put down into the minors. So if anything wants to make its way back up because of, or are we happy with this list? So I'll go through it one more time. We have Mickey 17, Blitz, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Anora, Untitled Jordan Peele film, Nosferatu, Mother Mary, Civil War, Gladiator 2, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga or whatever the fuck they're calling it, Saw 11, Twisters, which is probably one that we might talk about now, Deadpool 3. I'm gonna push for it. I still haven't given up on Marvel, and I'm gonna bet my chips on Deadpool 3 both being successful. And you know me, I fucking hated Free Guy. I don't love Sean Levy. Like, Ryan Reynolds is
Him
worn thin
and
on
Ryan
me.
Reynolds are just
Like,
like
or
tied to the.
yeah, you find a guy you like working with and someone like Reynolds that kind of makes sense to me. I mean that both as a dig and as not a dig. Like, I get it. Like, find someone you like working with and you just keep working with them over and over again. Love Lies Bleeding, Inside Out 2, The Shrouds, Untitled,
Uncharted.
Trey Edward Schultz movie, The Brutalist, Megalopolis, Handling the Undead, I Saw the TV Glow, The Actor, The End, and Kinds of Kindness.
Okay, I love horror, but
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still excited for it, but maybe Handling the Undead is one we consider to cut
Okay.
just because we put it in the list before. I do like the trailer still, and I think you should watch it. But with the Sundance release, and I mean, we still
Mm-hmm.
have Love Lies Bleeding, and I saw the TV Glow
Mm-hmm.
on there. There is something about it, and I'm saying this now and watch it be like critically acclaimed, uh, where it
That
does
could
feel.
just be what you expect it to be, you think? Or
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong against it. I'm still looking forward to it, but I do feel like sometimes when you hear these early announcements for festivals like Sundance or Berlin, or even when you see a trailer to something, it sometimes takes away the mystique a little bit of
mm-hmm.
these anticipation lists because part of the fun is
It's
that you
like,
you don't know anything
yeah.
really about the film other than the title and maybe a plot synopsis and the cast, or very little. Like that's kind of what makes it exciting because you don't know really even what it's going to be yet in terms of like what it ends up being interpreted as by the public, by festivals and critics and things like that. So I do feel like with the promotional material now out for some of these movies that are on our list, that does also hurt it a little
I
bit.
mean, I think that's what hurt bike riders falling off,
Well,
right?
even Furiosa, I think I'm still looking forward to because I love Mad Max Fury Road and I love George Miller, and like I think it's always worth seeing one of his films. But I think the trailer didn't do anything the way that the first trailer for Mad Max Fury Road got me right away. And then I was just pleasantly surprised by the film, where this, like a lot of people, and I think it's a fair criticism of the CGI. I'm not trying to talk out Furiosa because I think it needs to be in there, but I think like that does take away a little
I'm okay
bit.
to cut it. I'm okay to
No,
cut it.
no, it's staying. If Saw is staying, Furiosa is staying. But stuff like that, like when you see a trailer for something that maybe you're more excited about in your mind because you're thinking about what it could be, and then when you see what it is, there's an element of, oh, this maybe isn't going to be on my list anymore because of that. But then like you look at Lies Bleeding, where like that trailer pops,
Yeah, and
and
I
it
just
could also
watched the
still
Handling the
be.
Undead trailer. Totally understand where you're coming from. Looks
Yeah,
good. I want to see it, but I do agree that I don't know if that trailer did anything to make me go, "Oh fuck, I can't wait for this." It,
yeah.
it, it made me go, "Oh, I do want to see this," and I'm looking forward to it. But does it make a list of 24 films? So I'm kind of with you. But
Yeah,
then,
so I could cut that because we also had it on our last list, so it's not like we
yeah,
didn't mention it previously.
before,
And so
yeah.
if it is successful, we can still be
Hey,
tastemakers
we were
because
tastemakers in 2023. We
yeah,
we saw it.
we saw it coming then.
Yeah. Okay, so then that gets cut.
Yeah.
I will argue that Twister stays on the list because I
I
think
also
it.
would argue that because I think you made a convincing case just in terms of there is, even though I don't have the nostalgia, there is still the nostalgic base for the first film, the Lee Isaac Chung kind of
Yeah, I
thing that
think
we were
it goes back
talking
to the Barry
about.
Jenkins thing of like if he wasn't directing it and it was just
But it's
letting.
also a live action cast, right? Like
Yeah,
you do know that there's going to be an actual live action
sure,
component
sure,
to
sure.
it.
So I'll argue for that. So anything else that we're kind of iffy on this list? I think Gladiator stays. I'm confident on that one.
Yeah.
I
Ridley's
I
back, baby.
I think both Nosferatu and Jordan Peele, even though they're on the same day, and one of them might move, probably Jordan Peele, but
I just think that
um,
Jordan Peele's film isn't going to even start shooting until.
this summer or like,
Yeah, I don't know. Like I want it on there too just because it's Jordan Peele, but there's a part of me that thinks like either way we're fucked.
wouldn't they have punted it already if they thought it wasn't? I don't
I
know.
guess, but I mean Jordan Peele's one of those guys that feels like you need to give him the time
Maybe
to
it's a
make
smaller
something like
movie.
this.
Like,
Sure,
maybe.
it could be, and you could like. I mean, there are a lot of directors that shoot movies in April that end up coming out in December.
Yeah.
So there's still all
All
these
right.
factors of like it's still possible, but
It's staying.
okay,
I think everything else here, I'm pretty confident. Kinds of Kindness, Yorgo stays. The end sounded awesome. The actor sounded awesome. I saw the TV Glow. I think makes the cut because it's an interesting one that we don't know much about, but it is going to play soon at Sundance. I agree with your opinion on Megalopolis. I think the Brutalist. I think stays. I'm I'm a big fan. So I'm very down for whatever Brady Corbett does next. So um I'm absolutely want to see that. Trey Edward Schultz, another one of those guys that no matter what he does next, I'm very, even though
Even with the
Waves I didn't.
weekend.
Yeah, and Waves I wasn't like a huge fan of, but like again, in the same vein as Emerald Fennell or Ari Aster or something like that, like even if their last movie didn't hit quite as hard as I wanted it to, I'm still very excited for whatever they do next. Cronenberg, I'm always down to bow to you and go. Of
Bow
course,
to
he can be
me.
on the list. Inside Out 2, I think stays. Love Lies Bleeding stays. Deadpool 3 stays from the. I think we have a good mix here. Saw 10 or Saw 11 for my taste. Furiosa for yours when it comes to the things we completely disagree on.
Yeah.
Gladiator 2, Civil War, Mother Mary. I'm cool with all of these. So I think it's just now we have one extra slot now. What takes the place of handling the undead? Um,
Oh,
here are the
I
things
thought we had to get rid of one
no, we
for.
didn't. So we can keep it on there. Or here's what we have in our reserves. We have
Okay.
Godzilla Kong, the New Empire, Mufasa the Lion King, Challengers, The Bike Riders, A Quiet Place Part 1, Flint Strong, Transformers 1, Wolfman, The Karate Kid, Queer, Havoc, Weapons, Alien Romulus, O Canada, and Handling the Undead.
There's another film I just thought of as well, but I don't know if it'll even be this year because I think I don't think it will be, but I don't know. Guillermo del Toro's film,
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
Has it even started shooting yet either?
He's been posting photos
Yeah.
of locations. Double check to see if there's like a date on IMDb or
Del
anything.
Toro
I mean, Netflix is
film.
like they until like they're it's official because I think that's 2025 to be honest. But
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you there. It doesn't really say. Um, I'd be curious. I think with stuff like that, like I don't know, like that, you don't even have an idea
yeah,
of it. It's hard. It might be just like a pleasant surprise if it does. This year's also very weird because of the strike, right? Like the
yeah,
second half of the year didn't have a lot of confirmed dates or anything. So, there might be a ton of movies we're not even thinking of, or maybe do make this year, or maybe the second half of the year is going to be quiet, or a lot of these movies won't end up coming out, but um, we'll see. But yeah, I'm not against that, but I really don't have a ton of faith that that's probably coming
I
this
don't
year.
either. I don't either. Even less so than the Jordan Peele movie. You know,
Yeah, because that does have a date, and yeah,
what's its date? Oh, you
the
mean the Jordan Peele
Peele.
movie?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
you meant Frankenstein has a
No,
date. I
no,
was
it
like,
doesn't
oh,
have one. No. Okay, so what do we got from block? We got to separate these things into categories. Blockbusters. We have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I don't count the Jordan, even though he is in blockbuster territory, but
but
it's a
he's his own
different.
category now.
Yeah,
Like he is like Jordan
I'd
Peele.
say
He is
Furios.
Jordan
Even
Peele.
Furiosa. I'm thinking of what I mean by blockbuster. Like Furiosa doesn't even fall into that, or Gladiator 2 doesn't. I'm thinking like
No,
the
because there are tour-driven
Deadpool,
movies.
Planet of the Apes, Inside Out 2. You know what I mean? Like populist blockbusters kind
Yeah,
of
the
thing.
mainstream Matt
Yeah,
picks.
mainstream Matt stuff, which is really right now Inside Out 2, Deadpool 3. I'd almost put Twisters in there, but even though I would argue that it might be auteur driven, but because of, you know, the limited history as well as it mostly living off of the nostalgia of the first movie and stuff, that Twisters kind of falls into the pure blockbuster territory. But even
Yeah.
though I'm hoping it'll have more of a emotional core and be a little bit more than that. But so, and we have a lot, we have a lot of that auteur driven stuff like you're talking about with Mickey 17, Blitz, Anora, Nosferatu, Civil War, even I would put in that, Gladiator 2, Furiosa, which are on those like mid to big scale movies, but are in that kind of, I hate using the word elevated, but you know what I mean
Well,
by
they have
that.
an art house quality to them
Yeah.
because of the director
Yeah.
or the studio or something like that.
And then there's
What's
the other
David Zaslav's favorite Warner
yeah.
Brothers movie
And
going
then
to
we
be
have
this
that other
year?
category of like, with Trey Edward Schultz, Brutalist, the actor, the end. I saw the TV Glow. That's kind of in that
The
like,
festival crowd.
yeah. So I don't know what we're missing here if we even have to cover our bases. So out of those things, what am I feel strongly about or am most excited for? I mean, again, Weapons would be up there, but it's not coming, so I'm not good with that. I don't feel strongly about Karate Kid, even though I love those movies and the show. Wolfman, I love Lee Wanell, but I don't know. Do we want to go Guadagnino? Do we want to go Jenkins? Put Jenkins back in there. Do we want to go? I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think either maybe Guadagnino or Jenkins is like, again, we're putting like the Jenkins thing in the a tour blockbuster driven thing, but then like the negative or detractor there is still, well, it's just Jenkins,
Yeah,
really why we're putting him there,
but I think
because
because of him, I'm very excited for that movie, right? But
that's, well,
without
that he
him,
is the reason why to be
probably more
excited.
so than a lot of these, because
Well,
the
this
curiosity
could be the
factor.
Barbie of this year,
That's what
right?
I mean. Like the curiosity factor is through the roof because you're like, oh, it's Barry Jenkins doing.
You're at a pitch meeting or
Um,
something like that. The
yeah,
curiosity factor, as you can see on
is
this
is through the
graph, is through
roof.
the
Then you
roof.
got then you got like but then you also have it being like, yeah, I don't know, man, because like out of these other ones, I think Alien, you kind of know what that might be, right? Even with Fede
You
Alvarez,
know
like I
what
think
that's going to be,
yeah, like it might be
and not in a bad
entertaining,
way.
and yeah, that's what I mean. It might be pretty good, like, but I don't know if it's gonna blow my tits off, right? Like I just don't. I don't think not that Mufasa's going to, but like I think
What's that film that will blow Matt's tits off in
um
2024?
I'm not saying the Mufasa will, but even Godzilla Kong kind of know what that's going to be,
Yeah,
right?
you know
So
what you're
like,
getting with some of these films, even with some of the movies we do have on the
oh, for
list.
sure, but I'm still very excited for them.
Yes. I would
I
almost
think
argue for Mufasa then as
I
the
think so.
as the wild card Barbie play.
Blockbuster, yeah.
I don't think it's going to become Barbie by any means, but because you have someone like Barry Jenkins directing it, it automatically becomes a fascination or a place of intrigue to kind of like begin that point, because we saw Greta Gerwig do what she did and Barbie became something really special. So you kind of always have to go with like, okay, like there's got to be a reason here, just not simply, I mean, the money's good obviously, but and I don't blame Barry Jenkins for that. I totally get it, but you have to think there's got to be a reason.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't turn out, there still has to be a reason for him to put all this time into making this movie.
And we got to say the first Lion King, great movie, like the actual animated
The
film.
actual
That
animated film, yes.
that is very emotional too at times. So if he brings some of that to do a more original
Baby's
like
first Hamlet.
yeah, like story, like
Yeah.
I feel like it could work because I feel like the reason why the Favreau one, it just is the same fucking movie, right?
It's a
Like it's just like
rehash with ugly CGI looking animals, and
mhm.
um yeah, like you could just be watching the better version, and the better
Because you're
version that's 2D
yeah,
animated is more
it's beautiful and
expressive.
yeah, it's yeah. I wonder if he'll change anything with the how the animals faces looked
I
because like
wouldn't be
that was one of the
surprised if he
big
talked to James Cameron or someone like that to be like,
yeah.
okay, like what do I need to do to rectify some of this stuff? Because like, yeah, you look at the warthog and you're just like,
Because it was like too realistic looking to the point
yeah,
where them talking, it just didn't. There was no expression. It was dead. Like
yeah.
everyone's animal. So like I agree. Wondering if he'll do anything to kind of change that, but or if that's the vibe they'll go. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I'm fine with that. I'm cool
God,
with
we
this
love this.
24.
This is a dedication to
cool
Barry
with this
Jenkins. This
24.
is a dedication to Barry Jenkins, the TIFF platform jury member of
Yeah, talking about the
2023.
Blue Jays with people. Okay, so I think if you're cool, I'm cool with this
Yeah.
24. Are we? We're gonna lock it
Yes.
in.
Now we need to
Okay.
know if Jack Bauer is cool with it. Kiefer
Yeah.
Sutherland himself.
And let's bring him on. Kiefer, welcome to the No, I'm kidding.
He's like,
Imagine.
why didn't you put juror number 2 on there?
There are many reasons. All right, so at the 2 hour and 30-minute mark of this podcast,
God.
let's go through the Untitled Movie Podcast's 24 most anticipated movies of 2024. I can't wait till we get to 2029 when we get to put 29 movies on this. And then
Yeah.
what do we do at I guess 30 for we're not
Yeah.
going to keep doing that. We'll have to eventually go, okay,
Well,
what's a
will
good
we make it
number?
to 69?
No, probably not.
2069.
All right, here. Oh, the one thing I forgot, we left from last year. Sorry, before I can't lock it in yet. Rebel Ridge. Probably not, right?
I'm gonna
We're
say
probably
no
over it.
because they've had
Yeah.
some problems with that, and if it still hasn't been released, especially if it didn't play Midnight Madness this year or hasn't even been released now, then I would say no.
Yeah,
And
because
it
I'm gonna
sucks
say
because Jeremy
I
Saulnier is really a
is
solid filmmaker.
yeah. So that's what I mean. Like in April 22, before production restarted on April 25th, production wrapped shooting on July 24th of last year.
Yeah.
So or this year, sorry. So it's definitely gonna come out soon, but yeah, we don't know enough about it anymore. Like you said, some of the issues. I love Jeremy Saulnier, so I'm very excited for it. Like I love Blue Ruin, Green Room, and Hold the Dark. So, but I'm okay with us. It not we gave it its flowers last
Yeah,
year.
we were
Right? So,
tastemakers in 2023,
yeah,
so
exactly.
we
All
can
right,
still
so
claim it if it does well.
so here it is. Let me put a time code so people know if they just want the list. um which is
Yeah, then they
absolutely
go to 2
ridiculous.
hours and 32 minutes later.
Yeah, and then they just actually just listen to the list. Okay, so here are the 24 most anticipated movies of 2024 as made by Eric Marchin and Matt Rohrbeck of the Untitled Movie Podcast. We have Mickey 17, Blitz, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Anora, Untitled Jordan Peele film, Nosferatu, Mother Mary, Civil War, Gladiator 2, Furiosa, I don't even know if this is the title. Furiosa, Saw 11, Twisters, Deadpool 3, Love Lies Bleeding, Inside Out 2, The Shrouds, Untitled Trey Edward Schultz movie, The Brutalist, Megalopolis, I Saw the TV Glow, The Actor, The End, Kinds of Kindness, and Mufasa the Lion King. And that is it. What will live up to our expectations at the end of next year?
Saw 11.
Only future us know. Will Eric finally enjoy the Saw franchise with the
No.
11th installment?
No.
Will I like Furiosa? Who knows, actually. Maybe I will. Probably not, but who am I kidding? Eric, this was exhausting, but
Yep.
exhilarating at the same time. I love that we did this. It's my favorite thing that we do because it gets me excited for the upcoming year. I think, especially with this one, I was like, oh, it's going to be a fucking graveyard because of the strike and stuff. But, with everything we talked about, like we cut more than 15 movies off an anticipated list and had to come up with 24. So there's a ton of movies not even on this list that I am very excited for different reasons. But
You're excited for 24.
no. Unfortunately, last year we didn't put Monk the movie on our list, which did come out.
And you did some
so,
editing with Monk.
Yeah, that's why I was bringing that up, but not actually. It was a project. But imagine I worked on Monk.
With Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we're back. As you just listened to, we fucked up, as Eric mentioned, by including.
We.
Okay, fuck you. By including Jordan Peele's next film on the most anticipated films of 2024. So, as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we recorded that when that movie was still on Universal's slate. They moved it shortly after we recorded that episode. So, Eric, we have to pick a new film to be on this list because we are removing the Untitled Jordan Peele film. So, do you have something that you think we missed out on or that we left off that you want to, pitch to me, or should we just kind of
Yeah,
like, yeah,
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 and
okay,
I want to also make it clear to the listeners, the viewers, that Matt's mistake
I fucking hate you. So, the thing is,
was something that I think is a fair thing, because
if we left
the
it off and it
strike.
stayed on the slate, I would have, we would have our job as tastemakers, Eric, or our
Yes,
job as, the list people go to see what the most anticipated films are. If we left that off, no one would even know that movie was coming out. So
that's
like
true.
we
That's true. But
so
we would have been in the clear. But I think what I was trying to just say, and help your mistake get a little bit more sort of cleared, is that the strike changed so much in
yeah.
those months when the studios were kind of left to their own devices. So with production halting on, you know, numerous projects, in pre-production and ready to go, it's caused a lot of self-doubt when it comes to this type of list, because I was thinking about, like, oh, like, what are some other movies that could possibly be ready, um for this year, or what's something that maybe is a little bit off the radar. There was conversations about, like, Lynn Ramsey has a film called Polaris that Joaquin Phoenix and Rooney Mara are in together, but apparently that hasn't even started shooting yet. But some people were predicting it for Cannes, and that's not going to happen now. You have filmmakers like Celine Song, whose next movie is supposed to also be shooting this year, but that might not happen, or maybe it will, and it'll take more time to develop. So with those kind of movies as well, you have to think, like, we're talking about them now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make it on the list, and we can gamble and say, hey, this is going to be on there, or this is not going to be on there. So it's almost good to go with something that's at least in post production,
Yeah.
at this point, or Night Swim. So anything like that, where I think, if it's said to be shooting this year or in pre-production, I think that's almost a gamble onto
Oh
itself.
yeah, and I'm sure we have a couple other things on this list that might end up, but this is our final list after this. Like we're
Yes.
giving a pass to the Jordan Peele thing because it was before the episode came out and things like that. So that's why we're editing it. But whatever we select here, no matter if it moves and it's on our list. So I agree with you there, though. But there might be other things. There always is at least like 2 or 3 things on our list that seems to get punted, but that's the nature of the biz. So, Eric, do you have something, or should we just kind of look?
Yeah, I have one movie that I would like to suggest that we didn't have on our original list, because I want to make this episode even longer. Is Andrea Arnold's Bird. This is the director who has previously made movies like American Honey. She did the second season of Big Little Lies. And
Sort of.
so, yeah, sort of. But she's a well-known, well-established filmmaker. Barry Keoghan and Franz Rogowski are the two leads. There's not much known about the project, but it is an A24 movie. It probably will play Cannes. She's a favorite usually of that festival. It's finished. So that could be something to consider, but there's nothing known about the plot. And I know Andrea Arnold's films can be hit or miss when it comes to narratively how they play out, because they're usually almost about exploration of a character or a setting, and not necessarily plot driven, so they can kind of be a little bit aggravating that way. And American Honey wasn't my cup of tea, but at
Mm-hmm.
least it was something that was trying to explore sort of the American culture and sort of people that were kind of left to the sides, and marginalized in a way. So she's always worth kind of at least considering. But other than that, I can't think of anything else that would be a new contender in terms of what we already have, because I think we have a pretty good
Hey, I'm cool
group
with
of
that.
films.
I will I'm definitely down for that. So I say bird is the word. We will put bird on the
Birdie.
list. So I'm not even gonna add much because this episode was already 3 hours long or whatever it was. So I like that choice. I will leave that to you, and I'm looking forward to it. So just to finish off, everyone. This is the list. I know you just heard it, but here's the updated version. We have Mickey 17, Blitz, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Honora, Nosferatu, Mother Mary, Civil War, Gladiator 2, Furiosa, Saw 11, Twisters, Deadpool 3, Love Lies Bleeding, Inside Out 2, The Shrouds, Untitled Trey Edward Schultz movie, The Brutalist, Megalopolis, I Saw the TV Glow, The Actor, The End, Kinds of Kindness, Mufasa the Lion King, and Bird. So those are the 24 most anticipated movies of 2024 as heard or written or told to you by Matt and Eric of the Untitled Movie Podcast. Thank you all for listening. That list can be seen over on our letterbox, which is untitled_movies. Eric and I already plugged our socials at the end of the last episode, so I hope you enjoyed this epilogue. We'll be back with bi-weekly episodes for the rest of the year, hopefully. Don't hold us to that, but we're going to try our hardest to do that. So January's schedule was the best movies of 2023, and this episode, which is the most anticipated of 2024. Eric and I will be back with an episode I'm excited to do, a long overdue kind of vacation episode where Eric and I talk about the best places for film and movie and TV lovers to travel to. Eric and I had a bunch of travels last year, both to LA and tropical destinations and theme parks and things like that. So we're going to talk about all of that and the silly kind of film and TV things that you can do at those places. So that'll be our next episode in a couple weeks. We appreciate everyone. Head over to Untitled Movie Reviews for our new review format, and then all new reviews, conversational reviews between Eric and I will be right here on the Untitled Movie Podcast. Until next time.
Thanks so much, Kiefer Sutherland. Hope you had a happy new
He
year.
brought that back. I forgot. Bye.